2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we're back. We're live, and that means it's time for Freaky Friday. And as we always say on a Freaky Friday, can you handle our woo? And today it's going to be going very, very deep. I'm telling you, special show today because we're reconnecting north and south hemispheres of the globe. We're taking things way, way back. We're going to get into some ancient woo. We're going to be talking to the Anicinabe and Australia's Aboriginal people. I wonder if this has ever even been done before. Probably not. So you're listening to an all-time first, not here on Freaky Friday, but not even just on TFR, but maybe anywhere. And here we go, Scotty Lopez. Welcome back, my friend. I hope you got through yesterday's storm okay. And this is shaping up to be a doozy.
Oh, this is going to be a good one, man. This is going to be a good one. This was the long-awaited, like you said, the connecting of the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So, yeah, it's going to be good. Yeah, we're in the middle of a blizzard right now here in Kansas. So, yeah, yesterday all the wind came in and we had a huge windstorm, and now we have the snow coming in, and so it's been snowing horizontally all day with 60-mile-an-hour winds, and the power's been flickering on and off, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it or not, but we have a stable internet connection, so far so good.
Well, I like to hear, bro. That's what I like to hear. And we have got somebody who's been joining us quite a lot recently on Freaky Friday. Somebody who has been alongside me for a substantial part of my journey, my awakening. We became aware of each other years ago, bumping into each other through Chris and Cherie Geo. And how synchronistic then it is that we find ourselves here today, years later, talking on a show, on a network put together by Chris and Cherie Geo. But that's the way the world works. And these connections, these people we come across, I used to think it was kind of random. Some people, yeah, you were meant to bump into, but the more we move into this crazy future, the more I appreciate that everyone you come into contact with has a piece of the puzzle. They're important for a reason. And it seems that more and more people are recognizing exactly who it is that we are in tune with the most, and maybe perhaps even spent time here and done this already. Imagine that, naysay, if we've done this before. Dang, dude. Fool me once. You know what they say about that, right?
Well, what a deep subject. Here we are, Freaky Friday with the Roo crew, me and Universe here. My
Kevin,
brothers from the same...
Did you just say the Roo crew as in the kangaroo crew? It works, right? It worked. I know. I've been waiting to say that one all day. Come on.
Right. My brother and sisters from the same Mother Earth. From our birth, may we show our worth. There is nothing to sphere, but sphere is everything. Being here as the Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere realize the connection we all have around and around the globe where we go. I don't know, but it's going to be exciting. Thank you for this opportunity, Kev.
Oh, it's going to be really exciting. And let me come then and say hello first to Donnie down under. How you doing, Donnie? We're back here again, my good friend, and it's great to see you, man. How are you?
I'm good. Yama all.
Hey, and I hear the whole world shouting Yama back again. I think we lost Scotty's camera there. Hopefully he'll come back in just a moment.
I'm here.
There he is. He's still there. But I left Luna until last because Luna, one thing that I really enjoy about the shows that we've done together in the past is that we've always kicked it off with a blessing from you. You always say something to open up. And then once you've said what you've got to say, if you pass it on to Nacy, because I know he's got something important he would like to add before we go anywhere today. So welcome back, Luna. It's great to have you on the show, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Yama, good day, everyone. To begin with love and respect, we acknowledge Creator, Mother, Spirit, and the ancestors of the many lands this voice is being.
There we go. Don't you worry, Luna. Don't you worry. Just you do that. We'll get that super chat again on the break.
It's cool. So, and thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Cupcake. Yes, we will definitely play that one again. Back to you, Luna.
Back to me. Oh,
Back
so
to you.
good day, yeah, everyone. Woohoo! I'll give it to Nacy now for his welcome.
There we go.
Bonjour, Anin, Nacy Indigenicas, Anicinabe, Minowa, Kevin Richard Shores, Indigenicas, Jaganashi, Moog, Makwa Nindunde, Minowa, Nindogechida, Aki Minowa, Gawa Babigani Kog, and Dunjiba, Moorhead, Minnesota, Nunguminde, Chimigwich, Gichimanadu, Ganikana, Ape Gish Mino Bimadaziwe Wiyan, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for recognizing the miraculous perfection of each unique individual. And what we are going to share today is our experiences as being Indigenous people from some of the older, and some would claim ancient people that have been here experiencing what they have. And it's really interesting on how much of our stories of the Indigenous, or as I like to say, the Paleo-Americans, have with the Paleo-Australians. So thank you again, Chimigwich, for being here.
No, this is going to be really good. And Scott, this is one we've both been looking forward to, right? Because we talk about some of the stories from Australia. We talk about some of the stories from the Native American tribes. And, you know, to hear now people talking about their life, you know, and sharing the stories and getting into the deep woo, bro. I mean, I've gone to the edge of the deep woo with Donnie and Luna before, and I feel today we're going to go even further.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, this is something that I've always been like fascinated in and of wanting to you know, talk to, you know, people of, you know, the indigenous tribes of here in you know, North America, and then the indigenous tribes over there in Australia, because there's so many synchronicities, right? I mean, every time I look into anything that has to do with the Aboriginal people in Australia, and then I see a lot of just parallels and stuff with the native tribes of here in the U.S., you know, especially the desert Southwest. But you know, when it comes to the petroglyphs, a lot of the same things are being represented. It seems like a lot of the I don't know what you would call them, entities or others, or these star people or whatever. They're being represented in these carvings, and I just think we're talking about peoples that had contact with each other at a time when we're told that these groups were isolated and separated. I think that there was this sort of common knowledge that was being spread throughout the entire globe. So it's going to be very interesting.
There we go. There we go. Thank you,
Stand
DJ.
up in my yard and me go burn my ganja pipe.
There you go. Have some of that. Thank you, DJ. Yes, indeed. Perfect timing there, Scott, right?
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. So, Nacy, I'm going to come to you to kind of lead the Woo crew tonight, because you've been speaking to Luna and Donnie off air. So, where would you like to start today's conversation?
Well, I think if we can go and get the chronovisor going, so we can go back in time and learn about history and not his story by the winners. And I don't want to label myself as a loser, because we are still here. And so it would be interesting to hear Donnie, if he could share with us, a little bit about Australia prior to the conquest of the dominant society. If we could start with that, Sir Donnie.
I like that Sir bit there. Well, before white settlement, this country was here, for want of a better word, utopia. Everything fitted in fine. We lived with the land, not on the land. We did actually do farming. We looked after the land, and basically that's how it was back then. It was like a utopia system.
We need to get back to about that, right? Yeah, we're still here. We're just listening, brother. We're listening.
Yeah, well, that's basically it. Like, it was a utopia. Utopia system, utopia law, and everything worked in fine until white settlement came. What was that?
Sorry.
It's not like everybody lived in synchronicity with the with the land, and then everybody, they had this connection with Mother Nature, and they lived in harmony with it, as opposed to, I guess what you could say now is that we grind against it. We're not synchronized with nature right now. There's a conflict, going on there, whereas before it used to be everything was just kind of one, and it worked together like a well-oiled machine. It's not the case anymore. So yeah.
Well, basically, Scotty, you are right what you're saying. We're sort of starting to separate away from nature and more involved in this high-tech society that we got now, which is not working. We still need to be connected with nature, with our Mother Earth, with our laws, basically that way. And there's no in between. Like I was told to me, you got to have a practical side, you got to have a spiritual side.
Yeah.
And if you don't have them even par, if one's more than the other, it doesn't work. You got to have the both in par with each other.
It's really interesting that the one word that Donnie shared was utopia. And if you look at the history of that word, you'll find Thomas Paine wrote the book Utopia. And he wrote this book after visiting North America and witnessing the way that the Paleo-Americans lived their lives. And he thought that it was this new coined phrase, utopia. And this is something that you find prevalently throughout this world of these paleo entities, and how they had such a strong connection with their surroundings and that harmonious. And I'm not saying that they were all angels, because the one thing I know about my ancestors, they were very much open to give, but the minute that you would do something wrong, there was consequences.
He broke the law.
And Luna, you're nodding your head there as well. Is that something that rings true with you?
Oh, so true. Like, you got to be careful where you walk, what to say.
Now, one thing that I really didn't appreciate until I hooked up with you guys and we started doing the shows with Jess and Dan, is the separation between the kind of men's business and women's business. Now, is that something that is also common with the native peoples of America? Kev, is there a distinct separation there between the men's business and the women's business, as Donnie and Luna put it?
There is technically, but there's always a abnormality or a glitch in the matrix, as you could say.
An exception to the rule.
Yes, because there was like standards that men would do, and there were standards that women do. One example is that women were always tending the water. And this was because, through our mothers comes life. And women, technically are more water than men are. And so it was more of a woman's role to tend the water and to help raise the children and take care of the dwelling, and then there was certain things that men did. However, the exception to the rule was when you would do your vision quest, for lack of a better term, when you come into your puberty times or going through puberty, then if your creator told you or you affirmed that, hey, I want to participate in a woman's role as a man, it was accepted. Or if a woman wanted to participate in the men's role, it was accepted. And because each individual is their own entity, and the main primary goal is for everybody to work together.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Again, Luna, you're nodding away there in agreement.
I'm kind of astounded, actually. If you see the picture behind me, I changed pictures because this is a woman's painting, and because there's so many fellas here, I had to even out the energy. So I put my woman's painting. I've actually got my friend here, who's a dark and young woman, to sit with me to balance out the energy. And when I just heard what Nase said, we just looked at each other like, oh, the women allowed to do men's business stuff. Oh, like here it's no, it's big taboo. Yeah. You don't do that.
I can tell from speaking to you and speaking to Donnie, sometimes your reaction, it's just, it's almost pure taboo, crossing over into the other's kind of business, But I find it interesting as well, Scott. Here's another difference between, the ancient kind of wisdom and, as I call it, the originals, right? Connected with nature and harmony with things. And one of the first things that Luna's thinking about is making sure there's a balance to the energies. Many people, do you know that's an aspect of their life anymore, Scott, where they think to themselves, now we better make sure we've got like a balance of feminine and masculine kind of energy. That's something that doesn't exist in our day, right?
Yeah, it's very, very, very rare that you come across anybody anymore that has that mindset, that's thinking about things, right? Trying to balance out the feminine with the male energies in the room and stuff like that, and it's cool. I mean, and this is the stuff that I've said repeatedly. This is the stuff that we've lost. This is the things that people no longer are in touch with anymore. And I think that if we start to kind of go back to this go back to this stuff and start utilizing it, I really think that we can kind of, if we make things a little bit better in the world right now than what they currently are.
Scott, I think I'd go even further. I think we're in danger if we don't look back far enough and remember some of the things that not everyone's forgotten, then we've got no hope in looking forward. Because our current trajectory, it's got people like Elon Musk looking at making us interplanetary, not just because he can, but because it might be the only survival for the species, you know?
Yeah, you know, and it, I mean, look, we're not going to stop the direction that we're going as far as technology and all of that stuff. That's something that, you know, no matter what we do or how much we resist it, it's gonna arrive. It's gonna be here. So I think we have to. I just think we have to strike a balance and do it. You know, like Donnie was saying, kind of be practical about it, and think about, okay, well, we have all this technology coming. You know, how do we best utilize it, but still manage to keep that connection with the planet, you know, keep connection with nature and all of that stuff. And I think we just have to figure out how to strike a balance, and that's the tough part. You know, what is that balance? How do we strike that balance to where we can utilize the technology and all of that, but we can still disconnect enough to where we can connect with nature and connect with the earth? And I don't know the answer to that. I think that's something we have to,
you know,
have to figure out.
I've got a piece of the puzzle that fits, Scott, and I'll come to you, Luna, or Donnie, but we're right now using some of the most technologically advanced communication systems in the world, and it's awesome. Don't ever get me wrong, it's awesome, but we know it also comes at great cost as well. Mimetic warfare, all the stuff we talk about, everything being watched. And yet at the same time, as we're building this absolutely amazing cybernetic superhighway, we've already got the ability to communicate organically. And I'll come to you, Luna, because this is woo. It is woo, because here we are sitting in front of our computers, but you talked to me about the bush telegraph, and we might have said this before, but Freaky Friday, bigger audience, a lot of new people, Luna. Tell people what it is when you talk about getting in touch with Donnie or one of your friends via the bush telegraph.
Okay, so I'll use technology to kind of explain it. It's like we got an inbuilt mobile phone, and our thoughts and our feelings go along the airways, and it connects with the person we're thinking about, and or those that are connected to us. So if it's a feeling and you're feeling sad, it'll go out, and they'll automatically get a message saying, you know, someone needs extra love here, and your angel will go out and connect. And when it happens, like with me and Donnie and some others, they'll actually ring up. Actually, I had one lady turn up on my doorstep at 11 o'clock just going, I don't know why, I was at a party and I just knew I had to come here and be with you. And I went, oh, I'm glad to hear this happened, that happened. And that's how it works. Other ways it works with me and Donnie, he'll be out in the land or something doing his stuff. I'll be here, and similar things will pop up in our vision. And then we'll get home and I'll go, did you get my message? And you go, yeah, I got your message. Or he'll say, did you get my message today? I went, oh, was that you? It's just natural like that. It's like open communication. We've got a mobile phone and we don't have to pay for it. And it's feeling as well as thought. And I think Donnie wanted to add something.
Donnie, I mean, what is it for you? I mean, when I say bush telegraph to you, how do you best describe it?
Well, I have to say this, that Naysay actually sent me a message before the show started. He told me that a raven will come and send me good vibes. And we call them crows out here, or in my language, Waru. 2 Warus circled my house this morning about 20 minutes before this show started. And I knew it was Naysay that sent it.
You see, Scotty Lopez, that's what I'm calling a deep woo.
Yeah, that's really cool. And see, that's what I was talking about. You know, when we're trying to strike this balance, maybe if we started getting in touch with this stuff again, we wouldn't have to be using a cell phone as often. We wouldn't be having to
utilize Here's a thing, Scott, right? Because people might be thinking, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm not one of the indigenous people from my country or this country or Australia. No. Because Nano Girl's in the chat room right now. And I can tell you, she used to freak me out to the point of one time even bringing like a tear to my eye because it was stress. I think it was financial at the time because I was working. But I just remember kind of like seeing you kind of put your back against a wall, Scott, and you just kind of slide down it till you're sitting there and you just put your kind of head on your knees and you're thinking, And then out of the blue, Nano's like, is everything okay, Kev?
Yes, yeah.
How on earth can that even be true? But it is. So I have experienced it one way,
Yeah, everybody has that ability, to a certain extent. It's just a matter of honing the skill and working on it and practicing and all of that. It's just like with anything else. It's a skill that you have to hone and develop, and allow to develop as well, and don't suppress it. Because I think that's a lot of the issue of what's going on here is that we're taught at a very young age to suppress these things, and then as we grow up, we never develop them. We're told, the imaginary friend you're talking to, it's just that imaginary, right? When we're little and we experience a lot of these things, we're just raised to push it down and not address it, not acknowledge it.
Hold that thought, folks. Hold that thought. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. There we go, folks. We're still here. Don't worry. We're still here, yep. YouTube. We're still here. There we go. Now, I know Uncle Donnie, Brother Donnie, very nervous today, Don. No need for it, brother. You're an absolute natural. I'm telling you. But the way your shadow on your face there, you look like one of these kind of darked out. It looks like you're anonymous, like try to hide your identity. It looks like we've got somebody kind of super secret squirrel stuff going on. I love it, man. See, that's what it's all about, man. It's just the five of us talking, brother. That's all it is. Great company. And me and Scott, well, I can only talk for me, but I'm loving it so far. And I think we gently kind of broke the ice there. So when we come back after the break, I think we'll step up the woo. We'll step it up. We'll get into some of the kind of cosmology, origin stories, see how these things match up, Scotty. And anything you can think of throwing in there. And I know Donnie and Luna and Kev are all armed, loaded with their own personal woo. And Donnie, before we go away today, because we're on the bigger Freaky Friday now, it's got like double the audience on KBS gets. It's huge. But I would love for you to share the story about with the shoes. You'll know what I'm talking about, the shoes, Donnie.
Oh,
right.
Shoes.
We'll get it later on in the show. Now then, before we go anywhere, let me replay. Wait till I replay these super chats here, because we had one come in from Polly Nation. Thank you, Polly. Here we go. Nobody laughing at me dancing, all right? Okay, you're allowed to laugh. So here's the question.
I have a question. Who is not indigenous, and where did those who are come from? PPP, good vibes for all tribes.
Well, I see, even as proudly Scottish as I am, I would say I'm probably not indigenous. And I say that because I've got like German blood in me, and there's a bit of Irish in me. But I'm a bit of a DNA cocktail when you start to go back through the generations. So I don't know, that's how I would answer that. What would your answer be to that? Naysay, Luna?
One of my elders told me that the only proof that is needed for you to be Anicinabe is to make the proclamation. That's it.
Nice.
Because if you are here on this planet, on what we call Aki, if you proclaim to be Anicinabe, then who am I to argue that?
Nice.
Okay,
I've got one more super chat. I need to sneak in here before we come back, okay?
Oh,
but we can come back to that, brother. We can come back to this. Is from Cupcake this time. Like this.
Talk about Stargates in US/Australia.
Oh, that is definitely going to come up on the conversation when we're back on the show. Cupcake, we've got you covered there. Don't you worry about that. That's something I want to get into. So on you go, Kev. We've got about 30 seconds before I'll bring the network back.
Right. Well, so if you make the proclamation that you are Anicinabe, then all I need to do is witness your words and actions that validate your proclamation. Actions speak louder than words. And if that's what you are doing, because to be Anicinabe, I can sum it up in one word, and that's respect.
There we go. Right on time.
You respect everything.
Right on time, brother. Look at that. Perfect. Here we go. Part 2 of today's Freaky Friday. It'll get freakier, but today's more a reconnection of the ancient world with our world today. Some of the information that probably we need to appreciate further, and we need to remember some of the stuff that we've forgotten. And also, we're taking information from 2 sets of people at literally opposite ends of the world. We've got the Anicinabe of North America. We have got the Aboriginal people of Australia. We've got the cocktail that's a German, an Irishman, Dave and Kev in Scotland. We've got Mr. Lopez, who's got the Mexican, American, Scottish connection. So yeah. It's a bit of an international flavored show today, Scott.
Indeed. I mean, and look, I'm half Mexican, so I guess that kind of technically what makes me like a quarter native, because I mean Mexicans are pretty much just Spanish mixed with the native tribes of Mexico, Central America, all that stuff. So I know I've got that blood in me as well. So yeah, very interesting stuff, very interesting conversation, and it's just gonna be fascinating to dig deeper into the parallels between the Anicinabe and the Aborigines.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Is that Donnie? Was Johnny going to jump in there, or was it Kevin?
No, I wanted to jump in there for a sec. I know Kevin's Anicinabe. Well, I'm an N1 man. And my family, Dick, on my father's side is a Kamilaroi. And we live up in the mountains. And I'm a mountain person. And my father's side was the Plainer people. And that's how it goes. So I would like to be called an Anawan man.
An Anawan man. I like that.
Yeah.
Anawan man. Okay.
One thing that I wanted to add before we went to the break, and Kev, you were sharing about the tear in your eye. When Donnie brought up that about the crows that we call undeg, a few days ago when me, Luna, and Donnie were talking, and we were talking about animals, and I told him, I said, well, just take a look, and when you see the crows, you'll know it's me. And this is to alliterate of what Donnie is saying, the connections that can be made. And when we're talking about that bush telegraph, one of the stories the Anicinabe have is that there were 7 grandfathers or teachers that came out of the water to teach the Anicinabe, and no one was sure where they came from. And all of these grandfathers or teachers gave us lessons to learn. And the last one to give us a lesson, when they went to go teach the first Anicinabe the lesson, they looked him in the eye, and the individual went mad because he couldn't handle the teaching. And so that grandfather was asked to leave because the teaching he was to give was to remind us how to use mental telepathy. But we weren't ready to accept and remember that knowledge because we weren't able to be settled enough in our own mind to have the ability to listen to others' minds also.
Okay, so here's a link and connection. Here's a definite link, because Luna, you've told me about stories of people coming out of the water before, right?
And coming up and talking to me. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, there is.
Is there not the story of the ancient ones as well? When, like, is that not where the ginger people came from? Did they not come from the water?
Yeah, and they came here, and they got stuck here, and and we ended up breeding with them. That's why we got readiness. And any Aboriginal woman that tries to dye her hair blonde, it goes red. And some of our children are white skinned, red haired, but their parents are dark black as Aboriginal people. But we just know if we see a redhead that we can tell they're part of us. There's something in their energy that says they're us, even though they're redheaded and white skinned with freckles.
So, when it comes to the telepathy, the bush telegraph as we call it, Kevin talks there of 7 teachers. Where is it? Where did this ability? Is there any stories of where this originated from? Was this taught to the Australian people, or is it just a natural type of thing that existed?
It's a part of us. I think it never got taken away. It never got covered up. Whatever happened, disconnected. It never happened to us. We still retain it. And it's like anything. The more you use it, the better it becomes. And like when I met Donnie, it was like, yay, because it gives me a chance to use our phone because he's receptive to it and so am I. We can handle, we know what comes in and what don't. And you have to have a calm mind. You can't have a racing mind that runs everywhere because you might ring up the wrong person. Or you might have the phone off the hook and something else might come in. So you got to, like that story that he said about the fella going mad, that's true. You got to have a good mind. You got to be calm. You got to have a loving mind. You got to be open so you can tell who's ringing, where's it coming from. And same when you send, you don't want to send crappy stuff. You want to send good stuff. So you want your phone call to be crispy and clear. You don't want all that static in the background. And if you're really good at it, you'll get a vision and it'll be like this. It won't just be a phone call. It'll be a picture as well. And the person, that's what happens with me and Donnie. We get the picture with the phone call and the feeling. And I don't know if people know, but this platform here, the feelings actually go through this platform. It's very much the same, but it's artificial. And that's what scares me because I want people to use the one in here, not the one there.
That's quite interesting, Scott, because, I mean, it's like, this is, in my mind, this is something that our brains can do. And you've got the story coming from the southern hemisphere, Australia, where it was just always naturally, it kept being in use, didn't need to be taught it. And then Kevin's people, it was as if it was a new thing that somebody came along and made them aware of what they could do, their potential. It's just fascinating, dude.
Yeah, I think it's this underlying dormant ability that everyone has, right? And with what Naysay was just saying, you know, maybe it was these elders that were teaching these people how to utilize that inherent ability that they always possessed, right? But I think that we all possess it at some level. And well, like Luna was just saying, right? You have to have a clear mind. You have to kind of be able to focus on the person that you're going to send this message to, right? If you're going to have this, I'm just going to call it like a telepathic sort of phone call ability, you know, this telepathic ability, if you will. But you have to have a clear
mind. We better not teach Popeye how to do it, Scott. Don't teach Popeye how to do this. We'll never get a minute's peace, man.
We can't teach this to Popeye. This is for we gotta occult this knowledge from. But
if anybody, sorry, Scotty, if anybody would doubt this, just look at your own experiences, especially when it comes to family members or partners. You sometimes finish each other's sentences. You sometimes know when they're going to call. You sometimes know when they're going to show up. So would that not be a validation? Because I'm not a big fan of coincidences. I believe more so in synchronicities.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, everybody has this ability, and I think we've all experienced it at some level. Like you said, say with loved ones. You know, when I think we've all had that experience where you have a loved one out driving or something, and you get a bad feeling in your stomach that something bad's going to happen, and they end up, like maybe getting in a fender bender or getting in a wreck, or something happens and you're like, oh man, I had that feeling, I knew something bad was going to happen. That's part of that ability that we have built into us. That's a telepathic experience that you had to know that somebody was going to get in an accident, or that just something didn't feel right, and then it ends up happening. That's an underlying innate ability that we all have. And some people are able to hone in on that ability and focus on it and perfect it and become really, really good at being able to do that. So yeah,
That's the bush telegraph.
yep, there you go. That's what it is. You're right, that's what it is. But you guys have perfected it and are able to focus in and utilize that ability on a level that the average person just can't do right now, and that's because, well, we're relying on stuff like Skype that we're on right now to do all of this, or we're relying on our cell phones, to give somebody a phone call instead of utilizing the bush telegraph. So it's really cool.
Scotty, I actually went and tested it out when I was younger. We were on our way to Uluru and we were staying at Kupapiti to rest up. And we just pulled into a car park and I looked across the road and there's mob blackfellas, the locals. There was about, 15 of them. And they're all walking along in a line. And I stood there and I said to them in my head, "G'day, I've just got here. If you can hear me, you'll stop and come over and say g'day." Everyone stopped at the same time, turned around, and the leaders that were walking in front walked across the road, but everyone else was standing there. But they all stopped, turned around. They all heard me. They all heard what I said in that same instant, and they all reacted to it. And I was like smiling, going, "Yeah, this is awesome." And I felt so much at home. And they welcomed me and did all the rest of the stuff. It was awesome. But I needed to test it out for real, and that was the perfect time because here was like my own people, even though they were in a different country, and it was that easy. It was so easy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I would say that maybe a couple of experiences I have. Well, for those of you out there who don't know, I'm in a wheelchair. I need help. Getting in and out of bed and stuff like that. And I remember I was laying there and I was like, I feel like getting up, and I just thought telepathically, just in my mind, I was like, yeah, I want to get up. I feel like I want to get up, and then my mom walks in and she's like, "Did you call me? Did you say you want to get up?" So she knew. She could hear that she thought I had called her. The voice was in her head, but I never really said anything. But she already picked up on the fact that I wanted to get up out of bed, and get up in my chair, and so she just knew, and that happens quite a bit. And like I said, I think that happens quite often with family and loved ones, and maybe even really close friends and stuff. But to extend that out to strangers and stuff, I think you have to hone that skill. So
what you got to do is go back to that moment, feel where you were in your body and in your mind when it happened. Remember that feeling. And use that to start with.
Yeah, build on that.
Build on that.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry.
Luna, you called it a mobile phone, right? And I always draw the comparisons between the technology and the organic, our own bodies, our own brains. And, when we use a modem, like the two modems, they'll almost like have the IPs and they'll do a handshake and they'll speak to each other, right? So when you're contacting somebody the way you do, I mean, is it as simple as thinking of the person? Do you just, I mean, how does that take place? How do you know if the other person wants you to be calling them in your head, you know?
Sometimes you do get a busy signal.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You see, you don't want to be violating somebody's headspace, but you know what I'm saying, Luna? Like when you go to call Donnie,
It happens.
like if Donnie's doing something, for example, how would you know? All right, not just now. Then does that even make sense? Is that even? Am I going?
You know those moments where you walk into a room and you go, oh, and you close the door real quickly. It's a bit like that.
Ah, right, okay. No, okay, that actually makes sense. Now, one thing I really wanted to get into tonight as well, okay, is the comparison as much as we can between what you would probably, on Kevin's side, the Northern Hemisphere, the medicine man, against what you would call in the Southern Hemisphere, the clever man. Now, I say as much as we can, because I know from doing previous shows that this is one of the topics that you have to really, really be careful asking Luna and Donnie, because sometimes I put them in awkward positions. Because I think you have to appreciate out there that a lot of this information, we're kind of getting this, we're really lucky to be getting it in the first place. And then there's some stuff that, you know, you're just not going to throw away on a podcast. It doesn't work that way. You know, and people can actually embed themselves with these tribes, these peoples for years and never come close to the level of info that I think we've had shared here on the show before. So I really need to set it up by saying that first, but I'll come to you first, Kevin. Is there a parallel between the medicine man and the clever man in your conversations with Donnie and Luna? Is Nacy there?
Sorry,
you were just trying to be all dramatic, weren't you? You were giving it that pregnant pause. I'll let them wait for this one, boys. Yeah.
Well, actually, I was just telling everybody, but I forgot we were using the bush telegraph, and so I was just talking to everybody.
Boom, boom. Nice, okay. Nice.
But I mean, it just goes back to this whole having a connection with another individual. Some connections can, when you meet someone, you sometimes get this feeling like, I've known you forever. And the comfortableness that is immediately there is that connection. So we like fine tune into each other. And as we spend more time and as we share more experiences with each other, then that connection just builds and builds and builds. However, a question would be is, if you have the ability to read someone else's thoughts, do you have the right to? Because everybody has their own privacy. You know, so that there is where the challenge is. And there's some entities that will close their minds because some of them know that there's these entities that can read our minds. So just like you lock your doors at night sometimes and you do your warding or your protection rituals and ceremonies, such should be done with your entity because you want your privacy, you want your security, you know, and when it's these entities that you love or have that strong affinity to, then sometimes you just can't shut those doors, especially if they shout loud enough.
Yes, indeedy. So, medicine man Kevin, talk to us about that. How does that compare?
Gawain.
How does that compare with the clever man? Can we even go here? Have I gone like too deep too early?
Well, I joke about that term. I joke and I call it a many sins man, because that is a terminology that was given to entities that were prevalent with their teachings and skills that they have. We're taught that everybody has that potential, like Scotty was talking earlier. It's like if you're a carpenter and you have all of your tools, You want to become familiar with your tools and know how to utilize them. Some people know how to use a hammer better than other people. Some people know how to use a saw better than other people. So then we as a community, we utilize each other because we're all here for each other. So if someone has more talent with helping somebody heal, then that's what they do, depending on the modalities needed, whether it be like hardcore healing. And then if worse comes to worse, these entities that have these skills, they will utilize, whether the bush telegraph, or they'll contact each other and say, hey, I need you to assist me because this individual has some major work to be done, depending on each individual.
There you go.
So it's so it's basically, the quote unquote medicine man or whatever. It's just somebody who has this specific skill set and has honed their skills in order to help, other people, and essentially, they've been chosen to
it's
do
their
that
role in their community, right? So now I know when I go to the southern hemisphere, I ain't even going to ask you this one, Luna. Okay, I'm going to go to Donnie on this one, because let me ask you first of all. I mean, Donnie, can anyone like become the clever fella, or do you have to be born into it? How does that happen, brother? If you can even tell me.
They basically are chosen. You're not born into it, you are chosen to be a clever person.
So
and not just clever men, it's also clever women as well.
Okay, so what is the kind of role of the clever man then in one of the mobs?
Well, basically he's a healer, and he's also the law. He if you break the law, he will come after you, or he or she will come after you. And they can heal, and they also can kill. And,
wow.
Yeah, you ever heard of the word point in the bone?
Not heard that one.
Well, once a bone, it's a special bone. If it's pointed at you, you will die.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Now, Donnie, when I read that book by, I believe it was Bruce Fenton's partner, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, Anne-Marie, I think, maybe. But it was talking about the Chiringa stones, and then we've talked about this before as well. Now, is this something that the clever man, and I'll get you to tell the audience just briefly what I'm talking about when I say a Chiringa stone, but is this the kind of stuff that the clever fella would be dealing with as well? That this kind of, as I would call it, deep woo, for lack of a better term?
Yes and no, because usually it's Chiringa stone is usually looked after by the elders of the clan, a selected person to look after this stone. Bring it in for ceremony because it's a pretty powerful stone. It can mess with your mind.
Now, where's the stone said to come from, Donnie, if you don't mind my asking?
It came from the sky people.
There you go, folks.
Wow.
If I can add to that, the Anicinabe, we have these stones that are commonly referred to as healing stones. And we have these drums that are called water drums or little boy drums. And when you make these water boy drums, you find these 7 stones, and they're spheres. They're circular like a ball, and they go around the top, the head of the drum, and it's used to hold the hide tight on the top of the drum. I was told in order to receive one of these drums, or not drums, but one of these healing spheres, that you would go to the shores of the Great Lakes, and you would do ritual or ceremony at this place, and you would sing songs, and that the tides of the Great Lakes will literally roll these stones up towards you, and then when the tide starts going out, you'll find these spherical stones.
Wow. So it's almost like the stones are chosen and kind of delivered to you by the waters of the lakes.
Right. And if you think of these stones being like almost perfect spheres,
yeah,
it's thousands and thousands of years, this stone through the tide was rolling over all of the other stones underneath it, just gradually chipping a micro piece by micro piece by micro piece to finally make that sphere. And then the occasion, coincidence that you're there doing this ritual and you're looking there and there is none of these spherical stones, and then walleye, there's a stone.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Hold that
Always.
question, Donnie. Hold that question, because I know I'm a pain, but we're about to go into a break here. In fact, ask the question, and then we'll answer it when we come back on the other side. Go for it, Donnie.
Did you sing the stones up, or did the stones sing you up?
Oh, see, I'm glad I've done that now. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Wow. There we go. We're still here. We're still here. We're still on with the YouTube audience here. This is, well, I'll come to you, Scotty. What do you think so far, man? An hour in, and we've not even got to any of Luna's deep blue stories yet.
Hey, this is good stuff. I mean, the bush telegraph. I'm gonna have to start practicing. I think I'm going to start practicing my bush telegraph skills. It's a new hobby. It's a new hobby I'm gonna take up.
That nano girl's got them. She's got the Jedi powers. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this.
You enjoying it?
Yeah, listening to the men talk is really.
But Luna, Luna, I'm saving you. You see, because I know that you've sent me links, and I know you've got stories. You've got the stories that are gonna. It's gonna drop the anvil of woo onto all of this. And Donnie, thank you. I want to thank you. I'll thank you off there as well. But we're getting into some really kind of deep level information when I'm just kind of throwing that one at Donnie with Chiringa stones and things like that. But you can go and research that online, folks. Some of the stories connected to these things. Wow. And I mind Donnie telling us on one stream that we done over on the KBS2 how I believe you said, Donnie, when you came close to these things, you couldn't get out of there quick enough, right?
It was making me crook because it's too powerful for me. I'm not. See, when we go up in rank, if you want to call it rank, we've got to do ceremony to go up there. I'm not up to that part.
Yeah, this is like what Jimmy Jeans was talking about last night. He was talking about how people like your Crowleys, they're not just going to throw away their deepest information in a book, because you have to work your way through ceremonies. And a bad example to use Crowley, but really it's not, because it's the same thing. It's magic we're talking here, Scotty boy,
Well, if Crowley was an individual of darkness, then logically there would be individuals of light. And so whether you want to call it you're tested or you have to prove yourself, there are standards that are needed to be met, because knowledge is power. And why would you want to give that freely to someone who does not show the responsibility of having such power?
Exactly. And just like Donnie was saying, these clever people, right? They're chosen, right? Because they have the knowledge, and they're able to utilize that power in a responsible manner. It's not something that everyone can Well, yeah. Look, hey, look. We'll just go to the old Spider-Man quote, right? With great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yep.
So, you have to be able to use this stuff in a responsible and respectful way.
Yeah,
And
we were looking at Falconelli last night, and Jimmy brought up a quote, kind of letter he had wrote to the team working on the Manhattan Project. And he was saying from an alchemical point of view, we've known how to do this forever, but you need to be really, really careful what you're doing, because you've got no idea the forces that you're unleashing, you know?
exactly. And there was what they calculated that there was like what a 40 or 50% chance that the atmosphere was gonna burst into flames, and they still went through with it.
They didn't even hesitate. Didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
1 hour down, 2 hours to go on your Freaky Friday. Can you handle the woo? We've barely even scraped the surface. There's so much to come here. But don't forget, Brent Thomas, he takes over right after we get out of here. And he will take you through the paranormal portal. And as the show progresses, we had a question from the super chat earlier about Stargates in the US and in Australia. We'll get back to that. But we've got Scotty Lopez, we've got Nacy, we've got Luna, we've got my brother, Donnie, down there. And I'm going to have to interrogate Donnie a little later on about how it is that I feel familiar with him. But I'm getting closer to that. I'm a bit nervous myself about going there. But before the break, we were left with a wonderful question from Donnie. Did you sing to the Stones, Kev, or did the Stones sing to you? So, Donnie, Kev, take it away, brothers.
I was actually given a healing stone, and I was given to it around 2001. It was no, it was 2002. Forgive me, and it was given to me by my cousin, who now is one of the Meday Lodge leaders of the Red Lake Reservation in northern Minnesota. And he gave me this stone, and right away, because of one of the ways that we honor each other is when you get a gift, you give a gift. And so I gave him a 2,000-year-old prehistoric bear tooth, because I'm of the Bear Clan. And so we swapped those. And any time that I'm feeling a little bit run down, or if the situation is needed, I pull that stone out and I use it for ceremony or rituals.
Very cool, man.
But I wanted to add to what Donnie was saying earlier about people with these specific tools, or these people that have that ability in there. The grandparents, they will watch the tribe, and they will recognize in the youth these individuals that have the tool and may not even realize they have that tool. And then they will be tapped, and then it will be like, look, we recognize this in you, and they give them the offer. They're like, we're willing to teach you this if this is what you want. But then again, they have to go through these rituals of puberty. And after confirming it with themselves, then they'll be like, yeah, this is my role within the tribe. They look at each individual in the tribe like the spoke on a bicycle wheel. And if all of those spokes are healthy and working properly, the wheel will roll most efficiently. And so we all need to recognize how we're all that wheel together, and how do we operate most functionally together.
I like it. So, well, let me quickly throw this one back to Donnie then, because there must be a reason you asked Kevin whether he sung for Stones or Stones sung to his people. Where did the Chiringa Stones come from then, Donnie? Where did these, like, you say the star people, but what kind of story have you got that kind of you've been told around that kind of thing?
Well, there is a lot of stones, healing stones, medicine stones. Some people call them magic stones, and things like that. And as far as I was told, they came from the sky people, and they came down here to teach us, make us, give us knowledge and all this. And that's why I was told that they are from the sky people.
Wow. So Luna, let me come to you then, Luna, because you've shown some of the art before and things like that. And when you look at some of the cave paintings and some of the art from down in Australia, it's hard to escape the fact that you're looking at beings that look like they're from somewhere else, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's true, Kev. There's beings from there and beings from here, and then there's us.
So how did we get here then? What's the kind of origin story? How did kind of humans get here, Luna?
Creator made us. Bayami, Creator, use it now as God, created us, human beings, also created the others.
Just looking at some of this art down here, but there's some of that. That's the one I'm kind of thinking about right there. I mean, it's Scott, when you look at that, I mean, what do you see when you look at that art?
Well, I can't see anything.
Oh, have I not
Yeah,
got it on? Hang on, there you go. Sorry about that, folks. There you go.
Yes, yeah.
There we go.
Hey, Scotty, I can't see it either.
Nah, it's big glowing-headed beings with big, huge dish, like saucers for eyes, right?
Holy crap, that's wild. It kind of reminds me of a lot of the stuff that you see represented down in the desert Southwest, though, here in the U.S. You know, with the a lot of the star people, I guess. That's just what I'm going to call them, the star people that are being, represented on the petroglyphs, and a lot of the carvings that you see in the desert Southwest look very, very similar, to these representations. So yeah, I mean, obviously something went on back then that all of these people witnessed. All of these people seen these entities, or whatever you want to call them, and documented them. Like Luna said earlier, right? I mean, they're documenting what they saw. That they didn't just take the time to carve this stuff in rock because they were bored. That they put this stuff into rock to document what they saw, and for others in the future to see this stuff carved in rock, and to essentially keep a record of what was happening at the time. This is all based in something that happened. This just isn't something that they just made up just for no reason and decided to carve it. It just.
So
yeah,
Luna, what are we looking at here? I mean, what's going on with this picture?
Well, them beings there, we're not allowed to paint them unless you got permission. You can get in really, really big trouble. There's another painting of these, because they come from the rock art. There's another painting. See the eggs? There are emu eggs around there. There's another one with the snake people and snake eggs.
Wow.
But we're not allowed to paint them or really talk about them without permission.
Now, Donnie, is this the same kind of sky people that you mentioned when it comes to the stones and things?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
I can tell you a little bit of a story.
Oh, nice.
It's a special place not too far away from me. It's a men's site. On that men's site, there's a depiction of a crashed UFO and 3 giant red-headed people got out of it.
Now,
that's the story.
Is this near Gosford?
No, this is near me.
Is it?
It's about 5 k's away from my place.
Wow.
Whoa.
Scott Lopez, the look on your face says it all.
I mean, you know, we talk about the redhead, you know, the redheaded humanoid beings or whatever in the past, and
Ginger giants,
the ginger giants, all of that stuff, you know, that's immediately what starts coming to mind. And now you've got these, you know, redheaded beings coming out of a UFO, right? You know, being represented in some of this stuff. So it starts to make you wonder, you know, the origins of a lot of these things.
How old would you say that dates back, Donnie? And I know we probably haven't kind of scientifically dated it, but in your mind, I mean, how long are we talking?
I'm pitching more than 15, 20,000 years.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. You know, I'm still convinced, after having Bruce Fenton on the show, that as opposed to coming out of Africa, there was a movement of people into Africa. I know, Donnie, you're a big fan of Bruce Fenton's work, aren't you?
Yes.
He definitely makes a compelling case for us. Not talking to the Aboriginal people, we're talking to original people. You know, Luna, let me come to you. I think now Donnie's just hit us with a wow, deep woo story there. You sent me some stuff through. How about we get into that right now?
Okay, that's kind of Donnie. We were talking about it, and Donnie said, "Can you retrieve that information?" And I found it, and we put it up. It's like a shared story for me and Donnie, because he's right into the documented part of it, which is in the photos that you'll see in a minute. Whereas for me, it's an actual reality experience when I was swimming in the water. So I'll let Donnie explain a bit, and then I'll tell you about my little story after that.
Perfect.
Yeah. This creature I seen, at first I thought it was a bunyip, or water dog as some people call it. But after a while, you know, my white side kicked in, I wanted to find out a bit more about it. And then I found out it was very similar to the Nessie. And I thought Kev might be interested to have a read of this and see how far it goes back. Yeah, but that's exactly what the creature I saw.
Okay, now
it was bigger than...
I'm going to bring up a picture of the bunyip here just for people to look at, and I'll send it over to the TFR as well. I mean, there's one that sticks in my head where it's just this strangest of looking things. But I'm going to send this to TFR right now, and then you sent me some pictures as well that we'll take a look at, Donnie, Luna. And there's also the story that I'll read a bit from as well. So, yeah, talk about this bunyip thing we're looking at here, Donnie.
I can't really see it. It's really small. I'm sorry.
I'll try and blow it up a bit. It's just your kind of stereotypical kind of look at it. There you go. I'm forgetting you're on the phone, brother. I'm forgetting that. But just talk to us about your experience then. What happened, what it looked like, what was going on.
That looked like the same creature that I seen. But over the stories I've been told about the bunyip, he's a shapeshifter. Like he can be a human, he could be a dingo, kangaroo, a wombat, even a bird.
Now, what are we looking at here, Don? Is this another kind of image of it that's kind of laid out here? It looks like
that's exactly what I see. That picture there?
Yeah.
That's what I seen.
That looks that's very like, if I'd drawn the Loch Ness Monster from above when I was young, that's how it would have looked.
Yes, exactly what I seen.
Yep, long neck, long tail, big flipperish type things coming off it. Absolutely. So I'm going to read a little bit of this story here because it's called the Hawkesbury River Monster, What Lies or Lurks Beneath. Brilliant name. So it says somewhere in the depths of the Hawkesbury River in New South Wales lurks a long-lost cousin of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. According to Australian naturalist Rex Gilroy. Rex, a Katoomba-based author and head of the Australian Unknown Animals Investigation Centre, claims the beast is alive and well and using the Central Coast as a breeding ground. Now, he says that he has hundreds of reports to prove it, detailed sightings of the creature collected by himself and his wife Heather over the past 30 years, most recent in 2000. So we're going back, and just to quote him, it says, in recent years, there have been sightings of the creature surfacing as far up as Windsor, Rex said. And the latest was in the St. Albans, where there was a report of a 25 to 30 foot creature spotted swimming in the river. Now, some people who had been out fishing saw it swimming past the jetty where they were standing with a snake-like head about a metre or so above the water. So,
wow.
Yeah, big time. So with that said, let's take the wow to the woo. Because Luna, you've got a personal kind of story from there, right?
Yep, I was just thinking about it then. It actually started, my friend come to get me, and she's got a place up in the mountains up there. And we were up there that whole night, and we were seeing stuff in the sky and all that because we stayed up late. Anyway, and it was summer, so the morning come after that weird, freaky night. So we decided to go for a swim at the river at Windsor, the Hawkesbury River. Now, we'd both been there lots of times before, but this day was weird. And I was just thinking about it because there was no one around. There was no one in the water. Usually you got boats and that coming up and down, family swimming. There's cars parked and that. There was no one around. There was just me, her and this dog. And I remember thinking, gee, it's awfully quiet and calm, not thinking like I've told you before, when things are quiet and calm, there's something wrong. And I just thought, we stayed up late and I wasn't thinking right, and I just wanted to get in that water because it was really hot, eh? So I'm in the water up to my neck. She swim around, dog not going in the water. And that should have been my first clue. The dog's not going in the water, there's something wrong. So we're swimming around, then all of a sudden I got this feeling, get out of the water now. And I'm swimming around thinking, but we're in the river. We're not at the beach and there's no sharks. It's okay. And I'm swimming around, and then I got it again. Get out of the water now. So I got out of the water. She said, where are you going? I said, I'm getting out of the water. You need to get out of the water. She said, why? I said, I don't know, but there's something in the water, I'm telling you now. And I reckon it was that, because there was no one around. All the birds and everything were dead quiet. The dog wouldn't go in the water, but us stupid, we were too delirious from staying up late watching these things moving around in the sky. We were in the water, and it was like the noise, how can I put it? The warning to get out of the water was like a bell going, bing, get out of the water, bing, get out of the water. It was that strong. And I believe that's why we were getting told to get out, because that was there.
Whoa, Scotty boy.
Hey, I mean, that goes back to what I've talked about before, where you get a gut feeling, you immediately need to react to that gut feeling and don't question it. I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they don't go with their gut feeling and they're like, oh, it'll be fine. When you don't want to ignore that warning. That's that inherent ability that we were talking about earlier. That's you picking up on something. You're picking up the vibes of something, or something is telepathically, you're telepathically picking up on something that something is wrong, and that it's time to adios and get out of there, but it's interesting, and then Donnie said, he saw this, I would consider it the southern hemisphere Nessie. Now what's interesting, Kev, is, okay, if you took like the latitude of Loch Ness, that kind of area, and I know that latitude also crosses really close to Lake Champlain, where we have Champ, and all that stuff. Now, if you were to take that latitude, Kev, and you were to mirror it, flip it from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere,
it's going to correspond. It's going to correspond. You know it will, right? You know it will.
You think?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. And if it crosses any of these areas where this Australian Nessie has been
I think I might be wrong here. I'm pretty sure one of the antipodal points of Scotland is Australia.
Yeah, I think it's around that New Zealand area or really close to...
Well, I know CERN is just off New Zealand to the east coast. So if we go over to Scotland, I don't know what we're going to see. Hang on then. Well, get this right. I am actually my antipode here in Glasgow. That means if you stuck a skewer through the planet, ladies and gentlemen, where would it come out? It actually comes out on Papatowai is the closest city to Glasgow's antipodal, and that's in New Zealand. There you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty weird. People are thinking, why are you talking about it? Because we're different here. It's what we do, Scott, isn't it? But, no, I know what Scott's saying.
I don't recall.
On you go, Kev.
I don't recall if I shared this story with you before, but forgive me if you have. Ring the bell, Luna. But 2 summers ago, I went to my first Sundance with the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people in South Dakota along the Missouri River. And I went there to experience this incredible, powerful ceremony. And while we were there, we got stormed upon every evening. I cannot confirm or deny that I may or may not know a song or two that has to do with the rain. And so I do what I can in the want of no one to be harmed, because it was a pretty hardcore storm. So after this storm happened and I'm sleeping in my tent, next thing you know, I get the feeling that there were people or entities walking around my tent. Now, my tent door was broken, the zipper on it. And so it was open, and so they put a tarp up for me, because it's in the summer, it's really hot, so I'm not that worried. So they put a tarp there for a door for me. And I feel that I think that I heard that tarp move, and then I felt like something came into my tent. And the following day, I went to the, for lack of a better term, the chief sun dancer, and I said, "Hey, what's in the river?" And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I feel like I was visited last night from entities that came out of the river, and they were checking me out because I have a connection to the rain, because my name, Nase, is the first 2 syllables of my Anicinabe name, and the meaning of it means maker of great noise like the thunder, from the Thunderbird." And so he just laughed about it, and he said, "Well, maybe you should come back some more and we can talk about that." When I first met this Sundance chief, I was asking him, I'm like, "So do you have any people in wheelchairs that come and do the Sundance? Because I want to pierce at the Sundance." And the first thing he said to me, "Yeah, you." And I took that as an invitation that I should go to this Sundance. So later that day, we got a sunstorm. If people have experienced that, it's when it's totally sunny out and all of a sudden rain drops on you. And it was a quick rain.
Yeah.
And so they moved me under the shaded tent that I brought with me, like a pop-up tent. And so I said, I'm just going to tilt back because I have to elevate my feet because I'm also in a wheelchair. It stops raining. I elevate my feet. As I'm laying there, I said, I was telling a couple people there about my experience the night before. Just as I started sharing this, a big gust of wind comes, blows the pop-up tent canvas up, so where there was this huge gathering of water, dumped on me like I got waterboarded.
Oh, dang.
And I took it as a don't say anything.
Now,
Keep
Donnie,
your mouth shut. You're not supposed to share this.
now, Donnie's got a similar story about playing around with wishing for water and things like that, don't you, Donnie? Because you got to be careful what you try and conjure up when you're doing these things, don't you, Don?
Yes, well, I done a ceremony once, and it was cleansed the river that lived once past my place here. And I sort of went overboard. I flooded my house out.
See? You see, like you said, Scott, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Exactly. You can easily end up with too much of a good thing, you know. You want a little shower, you end up with a flash flood, you know. So
a week or two ago, when I was talking to Luna, and she was telling me about how heavy it was raining there for her, and I kept on throwing it out there. I'm like, well, let's take care of it. You want to take care of it? And then she's like, nah. And I'm like, well, if you want to take care of it, let me know. And I said, however, I am not going to do anything about it. It has to be your decision, because I do not want to take responsibility, because when you call rain to you, you're calling it from somewhere else. And if you're pushing rain away from you, you're pushing it somewhere else. So who am I to make that judgment of where the rain should be?
Well, see, I like that. A responsible weather magician. I'm only smiling because this is brilliant, folks. You don't get this anywhere else. We'll be back on the other side halfway through Freaky Friday. So that means we've got a whole heap more to go. Share it out and we'll be back in 3 short minutes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a plethora of woo. I've already filled up 1 page full of notes. This is going to be one I need to go back and listen to again. But Luna, Donnie, Kevin, we got an easy job tonight, Scott, right?
Yeah, this is good stuff.
You're bringing it back after the break, Scott. There you go. I'm just passing the
oh, okay.
There you go. You're bringing it. I'll cue you up. You can take us wherever you want, dude.
Just casually throwing it to me. Okay.
And Luna, we need to get Luna. We need to get Luna in as well. She's definitely feeling outnumbered up there. Look.
I'm cruising.
She got.
I've got all these beautiful men to look at and listen to. I'm not complaining.
Oh, beautiful men. I better put my camera off then. Radio face.
In solidarity. In solidarity for Luna, I can't confirm or deny that I'm in touch with my feminine side right now.
You haven't got a skirt on, have you, Nasa?
We call them kilts over here, Luna. Yeah. So, Luna, you're a Gimileroy?
Gimileroy. We're actually Gimileroy woman.
Gimileroy woman. So do you have a name like Nase has his name? What's your name?
I do, but it was given to me by a different mob. It was given to me by the top end mob, which are still very traditional. And they came here and saw me and talked to me and saw what I do, because I'm a traditional fibre artist and a healer. And when they asked me what my totem was, which is a goanna snake woman, and then they had this big discussion in language, and I thought I was in trouble, because they're just going on. I'm thinking, oh no, I'm in trouble, because when they all gather together and talk like that, there's business is happening, all the women are doing this, and I'm thinking, what have I done wrong? But it actually wasn't that. They walked up to me and said, look, we're going to give you this name, but because of these certain things, we're going to give you this name. And the name's Datum, and it means water lily.
Oh, I like that. Nice. Very nice.
No,
the water lily is medicine, And it also, the roots of the water lily are woven together because I'm a fibre artist and a healer. So that name represents who I am, a fibre artist and healer, datum.
And Donnie, as I'll get this right, an Anawan man. What would I call you if I was one of your brothers in the mob?
I don't know in language, but I was told I was bearer of burden.
Bearer of burden?
Yes.
Oh, now with that comes great responsibility, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, a lot of people do come to me for advice and spirituality, so
yeah,
that's why I was told I was a bearer of burden.
Wow, man. I'm still working up to asking you how it is. I feel like I know you like more than I know you, but we might get there. We might not. Look, I'm laughing too.
I wanted to ask you. For about a week and a half, I've had these three numbers stuck in my head.
Hold a second, Donnie. I'm not being rude. I just need to bring back the network, and I'll come right to you. Okay? Well, I'll come right to Scott after that. Here we go. Scotty, all you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, international creepers, universal peepers, whatever.
Universal peepers, man. They've never been here before. We're always growing.
Yes. I was gonna try to channel my inner Ken Webb, but I don't have the flow, man. I do not have the flow.
Get the bush telegraph going, Scott. Get it in there, man.
I gotta get the bush telegraph. I gotta get connected to Ken Webb so I can start channeling some of that Ken Webb energy. But welcome back, everybody. Freaky Friday. This is our international meeting of the tribes, I guess you could say. I
like that. I was trying to think of a title all day, and you just nailed it just off the top of your head. Boom. Oh, man.
But the international meeting of the tribes.
I'm thinking gathering of the tribes for the finished article. The gathering of the. Yeah.
And now we're getting into some really, really good conversation. You know, pointing out the parallels, the synchronicities between the tribes of North America, the tribes of Australia, and man. Good stuff.
Well, let's get Donnie, because he was going to ask. He was about to say what. Donnie, you were going to ask all of us something, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So about a week and a half now, I've been having these three numbers in my head, and the numbers are 27, 31, and 33. I've worked out some of it, but I haven't worked out the rest. I know that Luna is on 33 meridian. I'm on 31, but who's on 27?
Ooh.
Everybody madly looking to see where they are.
Yeah, gonna try anyway.
There's a message
the one
in that.
Thing that I go ahead, Luna. I'm sorry.
Because Donnie said to me before, he said, "I've got these numbers, sister. I don't know what they are." I had a look, and the knowledge was concealed from me, so I figured that it would come out later. So I left it. Then he rang me up and said, "I've got the first piece and the second piece, but I don't know what the third piece is." And when he told me, I just thought, "Oh, there's more to this. This is only the beginning of when we figure out the third piece. Then we're going to be given another set of stuff. It's only the beginning of something."
Well, maybe. I'm not sure. And I am the stupidest man that I know. But in the last couple of weeks, my father has been deeply on my mind. And his birthday is on the 27th. And the last 2 days, my daughters have been talking about how our lights are flickering again. And I've been feeling that presence of my father, because one of the challenges that I have, because I'm not white enough, I'm pigmentally challenged. And because I'm not white enough, it's not easy to fit in with the so-called whites. And because I'm not red enough, I also don't fit their So I have to find this balance of walking between these two worlds, because my history of my family is exactly as Donnie and Luna, where my grandmother was taken from her parents and my mother was taken from my grandmother and put into the boarding schools and the foster system. And this is what they did. They would take one child of Paleo-American, and they would ship them all the way across the country to go to boarding school, because they didn't want them to continue learning their history. They wanted them to be assimilated. They would say, kill the Indian and save the child.
What's it like in your experience, Luna, walking in both worlds, so to speak? You know?
So often I wish it was old days, because I knew if it was old days, I'd be looked after. They would have saw me as a young girl and looked after me. But living today and like that, it can be very, very challenging sometimes. It can be very, very rewarding. It's so beautiful. It'll make you cry, the beauty, but it also can be very challenging, and it can make you cry the other way. It's not easy, but what I've noticed is the more that people are arriving to this, the better it feels, because then you realise you're not by yourself, you're not doing this on your own. Like Nase, he's walking in two worlds. Brother Donnie walking in two worlds. I know a whole heap of mob here that are walking in two worlds, and the more that everyone comes to that platform, the easier it becomes, because like anything, when you've got someone there doing it with you, it makes it feel better. You know?
And Donnie, you're somebody, are you somebody that's kind of out in the bush? Are you kind of disconnected from or are you in a big town yourself as well?
I'm only in a little tiny town. There's about 300 people.
Does that suit you just fine, brother?
Yeah, it actually suits me fine. I'm the only recognised Aboriginal person in this town. Actually, in some ways, I actually enjoy walking both worlds, the white side and the Aboriginal side. I've got no qualms. You do get people that criticise you, saying you're too white to be black or too black to be white. So it doesn't worry me. I just go plod along with my life, and that's the way I've been ever since.
Quite right as well. So listen, right, I'm gonna throw it in there. Well, let's get to the bottom of this if we can. I've shared with Jess, Mammoth Hunter, Luna. I think I even told Luna first. I said there's something weird going on here. But ever since we first started speaking, Donnie, and I've seriously never had anything like this before. It's weird even talking about it. But it's like a familiarity. It's like I know you. It's like I know I can't know you physically, but this is beyond, like, me and Scott, we've been working together for years, and you get on with people, you click instantly, but nah, this is something that's almost like it's different than that. So am I going mad, or you're smiling? I don't know. What's going on there, man?
Well, I think we might have been brothers or sisters in a different world, or friends.
What do you reckon, Luna? Yeah, what can you add to this mix? Because you're sitting smiling away.
As you all know, our people, we know about reincarnation, what you call it, and there are many lifetimes in this world, and that's something totally normal. And I'm sure if you tap the remember button in here, you probably start getting visions of it. And the bloodline, look, my brother did because I got Irish in me, right? He did our heritage way back to 600 AD and found we're related to the McGregors. And the next day, you were online telling us about the McGrewers.
Which is another name for McGregor.
That was the very next day. And I'm sitting here going, oh, look, here we go, it's happening again.
Just when you said McGregor there, I thought, oh no, this is going to connect, because my family is like McGrewer, Scott. And when we were looking at it online, it says it's like another way of saying the McGregor clan. And I kind of never thought anything of it at the time, but now we're starting to get to the bottom of the weird feelings.
Very, very. And
Personally, spiritually,
Okay, hold on. Luna first, then Donnie, then Scott. Right, Luna, go for it.
personally, spiritually, I've talked to others and we've tried to map this reincarnation thing. And from what we got, when the world has a major event, in the past, there's cycles of when it happens, and it seems that we all seem to be in that place when it happens, and then in the past we've died, right? And then it's another place, and
so this
now
is what we do.
place.
This is what we do. We go back to source and we go, right, when's the next big hullabaloo? What's next on the bucket list? There it is. We'll go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I always I have said that I think, and it sounds really insane after the past 18 months we've had, but I wouldn't want to be alive at another time, because I tell you, it's the worst of times, but it's the best of times, and we're here for a reason. And I call it the simulation, so I think I spawned in here for a reason, but I think Scott spawned in, I think Kevin spawned in, I think Luna spawned in, and I think Donnie spawned in. And if you're listening to this, I think you all spawned in to be here at this time as well. And there's a good chance if you're listening to this, think about it this way. You, the listener right now, one of these times in the past, you've been the person that's been handing out the leaflets. You've been giving people the information, and me and Scott, we've just been the ones trying to hear what you're saying, trying to get a bit of information from you. We all swap roles. We all play our part. We come in, we come out. It's merely a blink of an eye, and then we start again, Scotty, right? Wipe the avatar in again.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of connection, this feeling that you have with Donnie, where it seems familiar, right? I think maybe, once in a past life or something, you guys came across each other, or there's this familiar feeling that you have.
You know what's familiar? I'll tell you what's familiar. I felt me and Donnie walking in Australia. There you go. I think I said to somebody one time, I'm sure I've walked with him at one point, and when I said it, my inside nearly freaked out, and I've got goosebumps saying it again.
There you go. That's obviously, it's hitting some kind of genetic memory.
Horrible, uncomfortable part of my brain that sends a tingle in every fiber of my body that makes me go no, but at the same time I'm thinking wow, but no, uncomfy. Honestly, Scott, you've never seen. I mean, Scott, you've worked with me all the time on TFR. I've never gone down this road before. It's not like every couple of months I play the "ooh, I'm freaked out" card or anything, Not feeling big and clever, sitting here making fun of my freaky feelings I get for Donnie, and they're purely heterosexual. We know that, right? We'll get that out of the way right away, right? It's a man's business here,
So no, I'm just saying, obviously there's some kind of a deep genetic memory that is like embedded in there, and that there's something there that you're picking up on, and I think this also has to do, it's the same feeling that people get whenever they see a person and it feels like they've known them forever.
Love at first sight. Love at first sight. Where's that come from?
Yeah. Or once somebody, they come across their soulmate, right? Like they both immediately know that they're.
I've had it happen the other way. I've met an enemy from a past life, and the energy just goes crash. And it's like, oh, I know you. We fought in a past life. I know that, and you just stay away from that person.
That can happen too, and I've had that happen quite a few times, where you see somebody, you've never met them before, but right away you're not going to get along with that person, and that just, it's not gonna It's not gonna happen. Your two personalities are not gonna jive, and you're gonna butt heads, and you just got to get out of that situation immediately. And it's, once again, it's that gut feeling. You just know by looking at the person that.
So Nay, say what say you when it comes to reincarnation and listening to what I'm saying about Donny Boy here? What do you think when you hear that?
Well, my speculation, and I was told that this was shared by somebody else, but it was my own thoughts, the way that I describe it. I think of a bunch of like marbles or spheres in like a huge globe, and we are like a sock or like a bag where we get filled with all of these particulates or these spheres. And then once it's in that bag, then these spheres get part of that bag. And then when we let go of the bag, when we let go of the body, all of those spheres get dumped back into the big sphere. And then another bag is filled. Well, if one particulate of Scotty way back long time ago was like the hair on a dinosaur, then another particulate of that hair of the dinosaur has transcended time, and it's in Kev, and it's in Donnie, and it's in Luna. So within our trillions of cells in our body, at one time, one of those cells from each of us was that hair of the dinosaur. And when we meet each other, our cellular memory is like, oh yes, remember when we were all the hair on that dinosaur 70 million years ago?
That takes us back. That's like when Scott talks about how, you could really take it back to the Stardust, we're all connected.
Yeah, I mean, we're all made of stardust, right? I mean, we're all just we're elements. At our foundation, we're core elements that were created from stars exploding, right? And if you want to take it back even further, I mean, we'll entertain the idea of the Big Bang, right? We all were ejected from a singular point, right? So we're all connected. We're all ultimately. Oh, go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, point of origin, I was saying.
Yep. Exactly. We all exist. We all were created from the singular point of origin. So we're all connected. We're all quantumly entangled. We all have a connection with each other, and I would say, we're connected with other worlds as well. I mean, we're talking about these other planets. They all came from this singular point. This singular point of existence. So we all have some kind of a quantum connection with each other. The universe is connected, people. This is a lot of
today. They found out today. Boring. Well, if you're a science geek like me, it's riveting. But they found that our universe itself is warped. Now I know you take one look at us hanging onto this rock, and it's easy to tell that we're warped. But yes, they're now detecting it as warped. What it means, nobody knows. But I thought it'd be cool to throw in there anyway, Scott. Who knows why?
Hey, I mean,
me, I'm a space geek, dude. You know me, I get alerts on my phone when like something breaks about a quasar or dude.
Hey, Kev, look. One of these days, there's going to be something that comes up. And just knowing that piece of knowledge that the universe is warped is going to get you out of a pinch. I'm just saying.
It might actually do.
Yeah.
While we're talking about space, let me throw something to Luna, Donnie first, then we'll get Kevin, because I know Kevin's thoughts on this one. But we often talk about Zecharia Sitchin's work, the Anunnaki. Dare I throw it out there, Nibiru, Planet X, woo-woo. Is there anything in the stories from the Australian kind of side of things that talk about planets coming back, aliens coming back, things like that, guys? Luna, Donnie?
Oh, that's
Gentlemen.
a hard question.
Well, I mean, anything related to woo-woo space stuff, just throw it in there. I'll probably be quite happy, you know.
Well, I reckon Bruce R. Fenton was hit it on the head. It's part of our daytime story, and it's part of it. It is true. But I also got a funny feeling that Rexagena sister ship is coming back, but I don't know when.
Now, we need to break that last statement down. Was that Rexagena?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so what is Rexagena?
Rexagena was a spaceship that was exploded over. I can't.
Was it not Papua New Guinea or somewhere it exploded? Was this like, are we going back about 800,000 years or 200,000 years, Don?
800.
Yeah. Now, listen, for the people out there that are thinking, oh, here we go. I can tell you from, I've seen the work Donnie's talking about, and this goes beyond the story because there's like geological studies that have been done of some of the stones, some of these spheres that they find in and around this area, that when you look at it, it can only have been caused by great heat, and just they shouldn't be there unless you factor in a story about, correct me if I'm wrong, but some kind of crystalline spaceship that came here with a scientific team of people from arguably Andromeda. Not that I'm really into this story and I've read it like 10 times. It's not, you know, Scott, you can tell this is a bit of a favourite of mine here. And of course, then you had the people that crashed and there was survivors. And is this what we're getting into here, Donny boy?
Yes. That's good. Right. And where the escape pods landed on, which I believe was more destined than anything, because it landed on the Meridian 33, which is Gosford.
Gosford glyphs, 33 again, Scotty. Like the stuff that, honestly, I mean, I always tell the audience, don't take my word for it, but there's like science studies to back up some of the stuff that we're talking about here, dude. It's fascinating, it's fascinating, man.
They've found these spheres that it looked like some kind of quartz crystalline or something that had entered the atmosphere.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
I mean, yeah. Then, you know, we talk about this 800,000 year time period, and for some reason, every time I hear about this, I think of the cycle we go through with a magnetic pole flip. That supposedly happens every 800,000 years, and I just find that very interesting as well, that those timelines, you know, sync up with each other.
The cycles that Luna was talking about, you know. And, yeah.
I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but I just find it interesting how we have magnetic pole flips that happen every 800,000 years, and then we had this crystalline.
Almost like there was a scientific team coming here because they knew that a pole flip was about to take place, and then would be the best start. That's the best time to start, right? At the very start of the next cycle, you get the full 800,000 years to go, you know?
I was about to say, or, you know, they know that this pole flip was happening and they needed to warn the inhabitants that this great cataclysm was going to occur, and that maybe they needed to go underground,
now,
Kev.
It gets even better than this, doesn't it, Donnie? Because we're talking about like something out of Star Wars, because we're talking about whoever was on the planet here at the time. They had a battle. That's how this ship crashed, right? There was a battle in the skies, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. That's between the Pleiadians and lizard people.
See? Now, folks, listen. Like I say, this isn't like Donnie telling you that he's getting this information and we're just to trust all of it. You can back up what we're talking about here, at least some of it, with hard geological, like scientific studies. Luna, what would you add to this here, listening to what's going on at this section?
Well, if you know some of our stories, we got the Seven Sisters and stuff like that. You've probably heard of stories like that. We got lots of stories about.
Well, tell the story of the Seven Sisters, because maybe there's people out there that haven't heard your story, you know?
Well, yeah, I don't know it all exactly to repeat it, but it's about the Seven Sisters that came here and stuff happened and they left one behind. People don't really know much about that, but there's one here. They left her here. So one day I presume they'll come back and get her.
So today we've had 7 sisters from the Southern Hemisphere. Kevin talked about 7 teachers in the Northern Hemisphere. Well, I'm telling you, and Kevin's going to get into something at some point. I think, Kevin, will you tell, what's the 7-minute prophecy? What's happening, dude? You've confused me. What's going on?
Well, I sent you that link to one of our 7 fire prophecies.
Okay,
that
now I
talk
need to be
about...
careful playing YouTube links. That's the only issue here.
Well, it's funny that you do bring up the 7, Kevin, because it's a little slice of heaven for me as a magic number. But the Anicinabe people, when our territory, it spanned from the East Coast around...
Hold that thought.
Around the
Hold
next break,
thought.
we'll tell you.
Yeah, around the next break, by the looks of it, folks. Rudely interrupted by the break, but never fear. 2 hours down the rabbit hole and still another hour to go. On your Freaky Friday, we will be right back. There we go. Yeah, this is good, guys. This is really, really good.
Excuse me, Kevin. Oh, go ahead, Donnie.
Is my video feed on?
Yep, you're looking absolutely splendid, Donnie.
I want to show you something.
Awesome. Luna, come on, Luna. We need to get more from... We want some Luna stories as well here. We need Luna. Definitely. What's he going to bring back? What's he going to bring back here, though? What are we going to get?
You know, one time you was talking about doppelgangers.
Oh, definitely, man. Can't beat a doppelganger.
Yeah, well, I believe my doppelganger is Bruce R. Fenton. This is me at the same age.
You'll need to move it to your right.
There we go.
Damn,
not a real
dude.
good picture.
You're going to have to send me a picture of that because, I mean, I've had Bruce on the show, which was really confusing. Bruce on a show about Australia, all the jokes that were going through my head, I had to put them to the side because it was sensible. But you might have found your doppelganger, man.
Yeah.
It does.
I was looking the other day and I looked at that. It looked like Bruce R. Fenton.
What was it about his work that really caught your attention, Donnie, when you first came across it? I mean, he talks about the Into Africa theory, and I urge people out there, check out the show that myself and Jess, Mammoth Hunter, had with Bruce. We've done a couple of shows. We've still to do a follow-up show, but what was it about his work that really resonated with you, Donnie?
When I first came across a string of stone, and when I was researching it, his name came up, so I started listening to what he had to say. And I've been listening to him ever since.
Yeah, he's a very smart guy.
Yeah, because you can actually feel the vibration of one of them string of stones. It's like, you know, when you turn the volume up on a speaker and you hit the volume music straight away and you get that thudded in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how it felt like.
That's and some of these were meant to have been left by the Palladians, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You're talking about communication devices, Scotty. Quantum comms.
I was about to say, I mean, that would suggest some kind of a frequency generator or energetic field. You know, if you were to feel the vibration coming off that, just like you would feel coming off of a speaker, it's obviously putting out some kind of a frequency of some kind. Yeah, I definitely think we're talking about some otherworldly.
When we talk about that, the Bush telegraph, one of the ways that we can use to connect even deeper is to share.
Okay, Kev, hold that thought. This is a good place to start when we come back, all right? Because I'm going to
like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Kevin. I tell you, one of these days I'll learn how to do this YouTube thing properly. If you are new to KBS1, because we haven't been around here much, then please hit subscribe, hit like, hit share, and we're going to go back, and I'm going to give it to Kevin right away. Here we go, before I forget. Welcome back, hour number 3 for all of you out there, and I want to thank you all again for tuning in to today's really special broadcast. This has been a round table like, well, no other, really. Some of the information we've had so far, Scott, has been off the charts. Donnie's managed to make me feel that really awesome, creepy feeling again, because I think I've known Donnie before, but we've been through that. Don't let me go back there again. But you enjoying it so far, Scotty boy? I think this is one definitely for the ages, man.
Oh yeah, this is really good, you know, and like I said, I think it's just more confirmation that a lot of these groups around the planet that were supposedly isolated and never had contact with each other were either A, experiencing the exact same things, or B, were in contact with each other and sharing knowledge and information, or C, which is what I think, both. I think they both were experiencing the same things. I think that they were both in contact with each other at some level. And what's also interesting, you know, now that we talk about, you know, the Bush telegraph, right? Who's to say that these ancient cultures, these ancient civilizations, weren't in contact with each other telepathically as well?
My thought. You telepathically stole my thought. There you go, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, why would you even need to take a boat across an ocean when you can just boom, send a message telepathically to somebody, you know, on the other side of the world? I think there was a lot more going on back in the day and a lot more at play than what we because we try to wrap our current experience, we try to apply that to things, right? And maybe they were operating in a totally different way that is unfamiliar with us. You know, we're used to, just pick up the cell phone and call, you know, somebody. Maybe if some group here in North America wanted to get in contact with a group down in Australia, use that Bush telegraph and exchange some knowledge and information, and completely cut out having to travel there to physically meet up with somebody face to face.
Well,
a lot of that was in play as well. I think a lot of that was going on, that you had this kind of telepathic network across the whole globe.
What about this one, Scott? Let's expand it further, right? Let's take it one step further, because I was looking at this yesterday, and this is in Scotland. I want people to bear this in mind. You're going to be looking at Scotland in a minute, right? And this is called the Cochno stone, or the Cochno stone, okay? Now, look at all this stuff going on here, right? Look at all these kind of circles and and all that kind of stuff we're looking at. And then do you remember the Aboriginal art we were looking at as well? And they've got a lot of the circles, the spirals, and some of the things that we're talking about. And then you think of cave art all over the world, spirals, and this kind of familiarity to all of it. Could they even have been communicating pictorially? Not with words, with images, dude, with pictures.
I think so. I mean, Luna was saying, you hone that skill good enough, you start seeing images, right? You can see flashes of images and things within your mind's eye. So I definitely believe that is a component to it, that people back then were so proficient in this and had the ability to do this. Yeah, who's to say that they couldn't essentially send a picture of something to somebody else telepathically? No doubt, I think that was totally possible, and that was probably what was going on as well. So it's very interesting.
I just want to chuck in with those pictures you see, and if you notice, a lot of them are taken from the sky looking down, but we didn't have aeroplanes. And when I saw the one you were talking about, Kev, I looked at it, and that's what I thought. I thought, hang on a minute. When we do stuff like that, it's a map or a record, or it tells you what's around the area. And if you look at that, and you have to go through each symbol and how they're connected. Yeah, and it's telling you it's either a map or what's in the area or the story of what happened there.
You see that one there? I mean, if I pull up now, like I done yesterday, if I go for Clava Cairns, I mean,
I was just about to say,
look at it. You see the line going in, Scott, and then you see the hollowed out middle, and then I'll come back, and there you go. Look.
I was just thinking that as well, Kev, when you were showing that picture.
Yeah. Then we've got another one as well. We've got the Loch Ness. We've got I showed this one, but this is a good one as well. We've got the Ormstone. There you go. The circles connecting. You've got something that looks to me like the Loch Ness Monster, just saying. Or the bunyip, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like the map of Edinburgh.
Yep. So listen, my head's blowing. Kevin, we were going to come to you because you had an even deeper thought on the bush telegraph, right?
Well, one thing that I was sharing before the break about the boundaries of the Anicinabe people, it was all the way from the East Coast down to like New York, all the way west to the Mississippi River and north into Canada and out west towards the West Coast. The reason why they had the 5 civilized tribes of the Iroquois Confederacy is because the Anicinabe people, on average, their men were over 7 feet tall and their women were over 6 feet tall. And so the Iroquois Confederacy gathered together and said to all these other tribes, hey, if the Anicinabe tried to get more boundaries, we're going to gather together and keep them at bay. But in this whole territory where the Anicinabe lived, on the East Coast, there was an individual who had a vision of the coming of the dominant society and that invasion. And then out of the Great Lakes rose a Miga shell. And if you look at a Miga shell on its side, it looks like a Palladian's UFO. And they followed this Miga shell all the way to where the food was grown on the water, which is called wild rice. And there was 7 primary stops during this great migration. But when we talk about these entities beyond our realm, beyond Aki, Earth, we talk about their ability to travel through space. And we have words for them where their meaning is sky sled or sky canoe, which means, something that you travel in. And then when you break down the etymology, when I've shared this before, and you brought up Zachariah Stitchin, our name is Anicinabe. And if you break down that etymology, it means when the spirit was brought down here to Aki. And then when you look at the parallel of Zacharias Stitchin, Anunnaki, and then you look at the etymology of Anunnaki, it means when the species were lowered to the planet.
Whoa.
You know, and so we, not we, the teachings are that we've been here since it was able to be habitable to us, but we were brought here as stewards of the planet. We weren't brought here to control the planet. We weren't brought here to subdue the planet. We were here to be in stewardship, you know, so that the Creator, the Great Spirit, the Great Essence, the Great Mystery would be happy with our existence. And so when we want to find communion with that Creator, we will build these lodges. Some people call them sweat lodges. And when you go into these sweat lodges and they're done, the ceremonies are done in complete darkness. And when I've had the ability and the experiences of these lodges, it is almost unexplainable, the feeling that you get, like you're literally transcending space and time. And then you learn from the elders that this is how some of our elders communicated with each other, was to build these lodges, do ceremonies, because they would look at the heavens and the stars and the alignments of the planets and everything, and they say, okay, if Donnie recognizes the same alignment, if we go to the ritual around the same time in knowing, then we connect on that other realm.
Yeah.
And if you, and it.
Oh no, go ahead.
I've got a bit of synchronicity for you there, Nasay. I was taught how to do the sweat lodge by a fella that came out of here from the Crow mob, from over there, and they showed me how to do sweat lodge, and I've sat in sweat lodge and I've done women's sweat lodge, and they're beautiful. And the fact that a crow man showed me how to do it, and you and the crows, I just thought, wow, that's a synchronicity for you.
Scotty, we need to do the sweat lodge, man.
I've done the sweat lodge.
Oh, do tell.
It's intense. Very, very intense. Probably one of the most intense things I've ever went through. It's
the euphoria, the connection you feel when sometimes when it's a men's sweat, and I don't know if it's hubris or ego that gets in the way, they like it really hot. Sometimes they'll bring in like 33 plus stones, you know, and it gets hot. And so when you're bending down and you're putting your face in the earth because it's so hot, you know, you're just going through this. Well, I'll share one experience. I was doing this sweat. I was experiencing what I was experiencing. After the sweat, we have a little feast, and then they say, "What have you experienced? What did you take out of the sweat?" And then people are sharing, and then the leader of the sweat, he said, "So what did you feel?" And then I shared a little bit about it, and he's like, "Well, aren't you going to share about the bear?" And I just got the goose flesh, because while we're doing this sweat, and it's a little lodge, you know, sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller, usually about 12 people can fit into it, and it's a little dome, and your back is up against the wall. And if you're not leaning against that wall, sometimes it feels like the whole thing just become the size of a cathedral. And while I got this feeling like it just expanded in size, all of a sudden over my right shoulder, I start feeling this like heavy breath and kind of like a growl in my ear. And I got the impression like there's this bear behind me. But not wanting to be looked at as like, this guy's crazy or this guy is full of himself or whatever, I didn't want to share that. because it was my experience, and I'm like, okay, what am I really feeling here? What's going on here? But then when the elder, when he says, are you going to share about the bear? Then it's like, okay,
Whoa.
it's okay to share with these people about these experiences, because I was raised in the public education system of America. And so constantly when I do these rituals and these ceremonies, that indoctrination has done everything it could to try to explain what is it that I'm going through. And I can't. I just can't explain it.
Yeah, it's one of those experiences where it's hard to describe afterward what you experienced, because it's real intense. You know what I mean? It's almost like you don't have the words to articulate what you felt. Like in my experience, all I could hear was like the shrieking of a hawk. The sound of a hawk. So I'm assuming that's the animal I'm supposed to connect with, because I could hear that sound that like a hawk makes when it's circling over, and I kind of had those visions of a hawk flying around.
You need to change your Call of Duty name, man. You'd be like Stormhawk or something, dude.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'll be Hair of the Dinosaur. You be Stormhawk, right?
But no, man, those sweat lodge experiences are very, very intense if you just allow yourself to kind of. It's one of those things. I think a lot of people, when they initially go in, they kind of fight the experience. You need to just kind of let yourself go and just ride the experience. I think that's a very important part of it as well. But yeah. It's intense stuff, man.
So Luna, what was it like for you?
Donnie, sorry.
I was going to get Luna back in there, because, these guys are talking about animals. When you were in there, did you experience something similar with the whole animal thing? How was it for you when you went through this?
For me, I was thinking about that, and I went back to that moment, and for me, it just felt like the mother totally surrounded me, and while I was in there, I was totally protected by her. At first, because of the heat intense, like we live in a hot country, and one of the questions I asked is, why don't we have them? And then someone said, because it's hot, 6 months of the year, we sweat all the time, and that's why we don't need them. I understand that, because I remember coming out of the lodge, the difference wasn't much between the hot, sweaty lodge and the actual temperature that was here, because it was summertime. But for me, doing someone else's ceremony on this land, it just, I was just dropped in straight into the middle of the mother, and she surrounded me everywhere, and I felt okay. And at first, as I got dropped in, and she was like saying to me, just breathe normal, just don't fight it, let it go, because my body was like, I was like this first, because it's so hot and intense in there, and it's totally pitch black. And you're aware of the other people, but you can't see them. You can hear them, breathe them. And the person that's conducting the ceremony is very aware of everybody in there and what they're feeling and everything. That's why, like Nase said, he would have saw what Nase was feeling and seeing. So I felt very comfortable, and I just let go, and that's what I felt. The mother just totally encompassed me and held me there, and I've never felt anything like that for such a long period of time. It was beautiful. I actually haven't done one for a long time. I'm not in the area where I can build one, because what I noticed about the ceremonies between the northern and the southern is theirs is very articulate and has many layers to the ceremony, many prayers at each stage that you go to. It's very beautiful. Everything's made beautiful and prepared beautiful, and it's quite lengthy. Here ours is intuitive, as if a ceremony is to take place, everyone intuitively turns up, and the permission from the spirits and that to do the ceremony is also intuitive, and if they don't take part, then nothing happens, everyone goes home. So we try again another day. But what I found is we're very plain and a bit rough compared to the north. It's really, as a matter of fact, yeah, just do this, right, you've done that now. Okay, we've got to do this, right, we've done that, okay.
I honestly, I think that, you know, this is going to sound weird. I think that almost ties in with Bruce Fenton's work. And why I say that is because you're looking at the original source. You're just getting right into the middle of the work. And then the way I'm imagining it is this information spread out and gone around the world to other people's. Bits have been added on, their own kind of spin's been put on it that puts these different layers onto things, and just really interesting. You know, I was going to ask you, Luna, is there, I don't even think I've asked you this before, and I really should have, but is there one specific time or day of the year that is more special than any other to Australian people? You know, is there one, like, when would be, is there a day you all gather to do ceremony or ritual or?
Well, there are people that take care of songline and protecting our country and stuff. They have particular times a year that they gather and do that, and they come from all over to do that. As far as the mobs go and getting together to do many things, what we used to have was at certain times of the year when there was either an abundance in meat or an abundance in the vegetation and birds, we'd all come together and spend like up to 3 months doing ceremony, marriages, catch-ups, births, men's business, women's business. And there's mountains in every area that we all went. So my traditional area, it's the Wedding Mountains. It's called the Wedding Mountains. Then up the coast, there's Three Brother Mountains. What else have we got? You got Yango. Mount Yango is another one. So all over Australia, we've got all these meeting mountains and meeting places where traditionally we would gather, but now it don't happen. My brother, a couple of years ago, went to Queensland, and they held the Bunyip Festival. They called it the Bunyip Festival, but what it really was the first time in modern times to bring one of those traditional gatherings together. And they met in the Bunyip Mountains up in the Queensland, and they spent time together and did ceremony, dreaming, dancing, and all that stuff that we did back then. And they actually happened. Pity there's not more of it, because that's what we should be doing.
Now, Luna, when you say doing dreaming, what does that entail? What does that mean?
Well, when we sleep, we get dreams, and those dreams can be very prophetic. That word very pronounced. Yeah. And in cases like that where they're gathered for ceremony and they're doing a traditional gathering like that, people will get messages, and in these prolific dreams they'll get songs, dances, all sorts of things, paintings, things to share with the people, and they share them together, and they get spoken out and they share them what they've dreamed, and they're respected, because to us the dreaming and our dream is the same thing. It's always happening. It's never stopped. It's right here, right now, while I'm talking to you. It's still continuing. So when we go to sleep and dream and get prophetic dreams like that, that's the connection. That's straight from there to here, because our unconscious mind isn't in the way anymore. Back then we didn't have all this distraction, so we didn't have to put our unconscious mind out of the way. But now you have to.
Well, that shut the boys up, eh? When Luna talks, everything stops. You see that? Dang, guys. Luna, thank you. Wow. Scott, I mean, somebody earlier on in the show asked about stargates and things, and I'm hearing Luna talking about mountains, Scott. Mountains, stargates, Scott. We talked about the American mountains, the stargates. Come on, man. What's happening?
Well, I mean, first of all, that lump of gray mass that's behind our forehead, I think that's a stargate in itself. You know, we all
Correct.
contain a star. Yes, we all contain a stargate. It's just a matter of being able to access it and tap into that potential. But going beyond that, I mean, there are these natural stargates that do exist on the planet, and I think we see a lot of these located in various areas, all around the country, all around the world. We have these areas in the desert Southwest that are, considered areas that are natural stargates, and that the native people, that the tribes, see these sites as, sacred grounds, and because they know that, there's these natural forces, these natural energetic properties at work there, and whether it be ley lines, where they go to these areas and perform these ceremonies because they know the natural energies there are heightened, and that they're able to, use these locations as a stargate, and a stargate can be anything. It doesn't have to be like the classic form of a stargate that you see in a movie where this portal opens up and you walk through it. A stargate can also just be a location to where it's easier for you to make contact with something else, receive those dreams that Luna was talking about, or receive a download of information, or communicate. Maybe it just makes it more efficient for you to use the bush telegraph, because you're naturally charged. There's already a signal booster, I guess you could call it, naturally located in that location. So yeah, I'm sure that there's many of these areas that exist in Australia just as well as they exist here in North America, and probably all over the world, South America, Egypt, wherever. You have these areas where there's these natural, the veil is kind of thinned in these areas, these natural locations where it's easier to pierce through, so
Scotty Lopez with a mic drop moment as well. Damn, I'm going to have to think of something intelligent to say. I tell you, here we go. We'll be back. One more segment to go on what has been a very incredible Freaky Friday so far. North meets South, the gathering, or the regathering of old tribes. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. There we go.
Scott.
Hang on, there we go. We're off there. There you go.
Scotty.
Yes.
That's why you got 411.
Yes, indeed. I think that plays. I think that's one of the major players in Missing 411 is people going out there, coming across these portals, and not coming back. They step through, and they end up in some wherever prehistoric jungle, like 300,000 years ago or something. I don't know. It just I definitely think that the portals are a major factor in Missing 411, no doubt.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, Donnie. Stargates, like one of our YouTube listeners was asking about, somewhere like Gosford, somewhere like that. I mean, are we talking about, is there special locations you would think are, for lack of a better term, a Stargate?
There is possibilities. I actually can't, off the top of my head, there, tell you, but there is possibilities that there's Stargates around my area. The best bet is, would you believe, is the Yowie. I believe they know where these sites are. I believe they know where these portholes are because they can disappear and reappear somewhere else.
Oh, the Yowie's the Bigfoot, Scotty boy. See what we're saying now, man? Kev's wanting to share his Facebook group. May I post it in the YouTube chat? Tell people the name of it, Kev. You know my feelings on social media. It's a weapon system, but If you need people to go and click that, go for it, dude.
And also
Well,
the best one, telegraph.
I'll drop the link in there for you for a second, then I'll remove it again, because like I say, I'm not a big fan of the social media myself. Here you go, folks. There's Kevin's group. Grab it while you can. It's in there for a few minutes. Yes, indeed. There you
right,
go,
and of course, my ego is like yelling at me inside,
it's your
saying,
dopamine,
"Why?
man.
Why?
It's your need for dopamine, dude. We're all after it. I get it.
I know, but I get the opportunity to talk to Luna, and now me and Donnie have connected, and I get Scotty and you, and so
I'm thinking when we
so
come back,
full
boys,
of dopamine.
How about this, Kev? When we come back, I'm very conscious of the fact that this has been very, shall we say, leaning to the toxic side. We need more Luna time, right? So, Luna, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your healing, what you do there, a little bit about some woo from you. And I definitely need to remember to get Donnie's story about the shoes, or my mum will never speak to me again. Donnie, I think my mum's a big fan. Big shout out from the north of Scotland. She's liking some Donnie woo. Who doesn't like some Donnie woo, Scott?
Mum.
There you go.
Gooney Jar.
Goody Jar. There you go. Said enough. What's that mean, Donnie?
It means mum.
Ah, Goony Jar. That's what I'm going to call her now. Plus, it'll probably get me about 20 points on Scrabble, which is always good to know.
Or ni mama.
Ah, now you're no, see, I'm confused. Two things at once. I see that. I'm usually confused, Nacy. You know that. Right, here we go, folks. I'm going to bring it back. Let's see. Here we go. Yes, welcome back to the final part of this week's Freaky Friday. And that there, you're listening to some didgeridoo music made for the Kev Baker Show on Freaky Friday, and all of you out there listening right now. Donnie, tell us about who it was that put that together, man. Donnie, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Who was it that done that little bit of didge there? Who was it you went to for that?
Mark Atkins.
Mark Atkins, a big, huge shout out. See, Scotty, not many shows can boast their own didge music, man.
Exactly.
What are you going to say?
And
He's got YouTube, what's names? So you can actually see him on YouTube if you wanted to see him play.
Awesome. I can bring over the video that this is from here so people can see the actual thing itself. It's not, but... But Donnie rocking away there, man. That's what we're talking about. And Scotty asked me once before, about putting that with some bagpipes. It's actually out there as an American festival. It's like an Highland Games in America where they've got the bagpipes. I do it on the didgeridoo, and it goes perfectly, man. It's brilliant. People are going nuts. Yeah. Yeah.
And
awesome.
Luna, you forgot to remind me, because it was a couple weeks ago that I shared with Luna that I have a didgeridoo.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You have a didgeridoo. Yes, you do.
I've even got a story about a didgeridoo. In the army, as you can imagine, a lot of alcohol is consumed. And one of the boys in my dorm, he consumed more than most. And one day he came back from downtown, and we expected him to be very drunk as usual, but no. He had made a bold decision. He was going to give up the drink, but to give up the drink, he had to find something new to do, something to occupy his mind. So obviously, I'll go and buy a didgeridoo. So his big plan was to teach himself how to play the didgeridoo, Scott. And it took all of about 2 days for him to come down to the Naffy bar with said didgeridoo, not knowing how to play one note on it. And yeah, that was him. The didgeridoo never got learned. But look at that thing, look at that. Donnie,
Look at that.
This is my son.
so your
He's
son
learned how to
plays it?
play it.
Now,
He plays
now Donnie,
this.
is it like, do you have to almost, be... It's not for anyone just to pick up and play the didge, right, in a mob, right? Are you, like, designated the didge player?
Well, for him to be a didge player, he had to make his own.
Wow, man. So how do you make an authentic, original didge, Donnie? What's that made out of?
Well, it shows you that you've taken something out of the bush and you're going to be using it as a tool. That's a really big thing in our culture, because that is now becomes a personal item for you, and no one else is allowed to use it. And no woman's allowed to touch it.
Wow.
Wow.
I can't even play it. I can touch it, but I can't play it. Because it doesn't belong to me. It's my son's personal item.
See, that's where we need to get back. You see, it's different, Scott. We need to get back to this kind of culture, man. There's something we're missing. We think we're so cool and we're so advanced, but we're not.
Well, and it also goes back to what Naysay was talking about with the Anicinabe. Yeah, it's all about respect. You know, there's a level of respect that we don't have as a society anymore.
Love of self, Scott. Love of self. Service of self. Yeah. You pretty much put self at the center of everything. That and our dopamine requirements, you know.
And in that respect, especially the respect for the Mother Earth, and with the great fortune that we have here tonight with Luna, if you can share some of your incredible stories, Luna,
yes, Luna.
I'm sure all would appreciate it.
Yes.
Especially myself.
We need it. We need to hear the Luna stories, and then.
Which one? It's like, man, now it's like, which one do I tell? Which one do I tell?
All your stories are good, Luna. All of them. What was the one that feels best?
Well, there's one I always wanted to tell you. It's about this place called Moramitica, and it's not far from where I live. And this story happened over a few years, and I'll try to make it not too long. So they built this place called Moramitica, and it's Moramitica means meeting place, and what it was designed for, it had a native nursery for all the food and medicine plants that we have, and it was also be a place where we could all go and do our stuff and have gatherings. What happened though is there was an original building on this place from a white settler, and they built this place of Moramitica around it. So this first started, one of my brother's friends was working there, and he was in the office, and the offices were located in this old building. And I was with my brother at the time, and we got a phone call from this fella, and he's going, I'm here late at night, there's no one around, there's banging. He said, I've got a bundi stick, which is our big sticks, what you use for hitting people with. And at that point, I'm in the background laughing my guts up because I'm trying to imagine him chasing this spirit with a stick and the stick going straight through the spirit and him just getting scared. So we're in stitches laughing. He's going, what can I do? What can I do? I'm going, there's nothing you can do. Pack up and go home. But unfortunately, he had to work there, right? So I'm thinking, we're laughing, going, we don't have to deal with it. Well, a couple of years later, I decided to go to college and get some education, right? And one of our excursions happened to be at Moramitica. And when I went back there, they changed. It wasn't offices anymore, obviously, because they had trouble with the officers and the Aboriginal workers in the offices, so they moved the offices somewhere else. They decided to make it a mini museum. So here I am with half a dozen other mobs that from all over Australia. We're all standing there listening to the teacher teaching us about the museum and the artefacts. It started off all right, and I'm standing there. Then all of a sudden, the spirit comes running up the hallway, and I see this big white fella spirit, and he's yelling at me, and he was using swear words, so I'm not going to repeat them, but you can imagine he's, "You effing black fellas, what are you doing in my house?" And I'm standing there, and in real life, you know, when you're standing there and someone's yelling at you and you kind of freeze and you're just like this, I'm doing this because I've actually got this fella yelling at me, and I'm looking around thinking, does anyone else see him? And he's yelling in my ear, and I'm thinking, walk out. And then I thought, no, I can't do that because I'm here for a class, and if I miss out what he's telling me, I'm not going to pass the course. So I sort of persevered. Well, it just got worse and worse. Next thing, he disappears, comes back with a rifle in his hand, and he runs up to the veranda, and he starts popping off shotguns and yelling out, "Get off my property!" And he turns around, "Get out of my house!" I'm thinking, please hurry up, whatever's going on, teacher. Please finish the class. I need to get out of here. So the class finally finishes. I'm going outside. I'm literally jumping like this because I just spent 15, 20 minutes with someone literally yelling at me, and it felt real to me. One of the aunties grabbed me and said, "Are you all right, daughter?" And I went, "Yeah." I said, "There's a spirit in there." She said, "Why didn't you just walk out, girl?" And I went, "I didn't want to miss out on the class, you know." Anyway, I left that. Not long after that, Murrumbidgee packed up and moved, and I checked it out the other day because I wanted to tell you this story. And there's nothing there now. Nursery gone, gathering ground gone. That house is just sitting there all by itself, doing nothing now.
Ooh.
Sounds like you weren't the only one having a little bit of a rough time over there with this angry spirit.
Yeah. And I looked it up, and it says the name of the bloke that originally lived there and all that, and I looked at his picture and looked at the image that I was getting when he was yelling at me. It all matches up, and I just sat there and went, wow, what a journey. So, Murrumbidgee.
What a place that sounds. Come on, Luna. We need more. We need more Luna time. Well, while you're thinking of another one, let me... Oh, look, she's even got one ready. You can tell already. She's got that many.
I got them right down.
See, this is what I like. See, Scott, we need to take a tip here. We need to write notes down. Prepare for shows. Take notes, Scott. Come on. That's what we don't do, right?
Oh, I'll tell you a good one. I told him, other fellas, this is the journey to Uluru. The journey to Uluru, so many things happened. They're like 101 stories all together.
Awesome.
And there's an article that I'll present to you in the future, maybe. A white fella wrote the article, and a black fella did the paintings. But there's a lot of words in there that I've got to learn to say before I read them out. But this will touch on that article in the future. So me and my husband, we've got a camper van where there's only one road to Uluru, in and out. So you pass all the same people and you're travelling in the same direction. So what we would do, because we had kids with us and it's very hot, we would kind of drive at night and pull over in the dark and sleep and get up in the morning, fix all the kids, stay there for a while, wait till it cools down, then drive again. So this particular night, he pulls over on the side of the road, pitch black, nothing around. Okay, we fix up the van, we all go to bed. I go to sleep, but straight away, bang, I wasn't sleeping like, you know, when you fall asleep, you go into deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you go off. It wasn't like that, straight into sleep, straight out of body. And, you know, camper vans, they got those little sunroofs where you can pop them out. My spirit went straight out there, and I'm sitting on the top of the roof. And I looks down, and there's a campfire with a black fella sitting there, minding his own business. So he looks up and sees me, and I went, hello. Next thing, he jumps up, runs away. He was so scared he left his thongs there. And thongs to us are shoes, not underwear, by the way.
Now that this is where you said that, I'm thinking, whoa, naked man.
Yeah, so he's left his shoes, his thongs there, his flip-flops, I think he's called them. Anyway, I goes back into body and has normal sleep like everyone else, right? Gets up in the morning, Carl wakes up and went, hey, babe, I had this really weird dream. I went out of body and I popped up at the top of the van. When I looked down, there's a fella there. He got scared and ran away. He went, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, I'm still in bed. He gets out and he's starting to make the food and that in the van for the kids. And he opens up the door and he looks out and he closes the door and he comes back in and he says to me, Emery, I think you better come and see this. I went, what? He goes, have a look out there. I open the door and there's the campfire and a set of thongs sitting right next to it.
Whoa.
Whoa.
And a little ways up, another day on the travels, because it takes a few days to get there, right? We slept at one place. Hubby got up really early in the morning. He said, I had a really bad dream last night. I said, what, boat? He goes, there were cannibals. They come out of the brushes. They wanted to eat me. I'm like, what? He goes, cannibals. And I'm checking me going, nah, I didn't feel nothing bad. This journey for me is blessed. Everything so far has been really good for me. I wonder why you're having that. He's a white fella, by the way, my husband. So he had this thing about cannibals. Now, in the future articles, I'm going to leave you hanging here and you can talk about something else. It's actually true. In the desert, they say there's cannibal spirits and stuff like that, and if you go in there by yourself, they'll eat them. They'll eat you. And I have an article on that, Kev, that I've sent to you, and it's got a painting. Someone's actually done a painting representing these spirits coming out.
Ooga, booga. Ooga, booga, booga, ooga, Scotty boy.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is wild, and it kind of reminds me of like almost has kind
When
of that
did I go?
skinwalker kind of Wendigo vibe going on.
Deep blue, dark, man. Very,
Scotty said it, not me. Scotty said it, not me.
Yeah, Kev, this is usually where you take us up nice and close to the algorithm, man. Dang, dude. Oh, whoa, that is the story of the thongs by the campfire, the shoes. That's bizarre. Truly, truly bizarre. Is it not? Or is that just me? I mean, that's truly bizarre. Are the Donny man back now? There you go, Scott. On you go.
No, I was just about to say that it's one thing to have the dream and all of that, but then to actually like confirm it when you're awake is what makes it like ooh.
Very. So Donny, listen, the shoes I've not forgotten, right? Come on, man. I want you to kind of give people the long version of the shoe story, as I call it, brother.
Well, where it is exactly where my great-great-grandmothers came from. And we had to do assessment and see about, like, if there's any Aboriginal artefacts there. And it's a creek called Terrible Billy Creek. It was named after a bushranger, Russian bushranger. And they reckon he had a real bad temper. And the creek was then called after him. And this creek is also a men's site.
Okay, so explain to the audience about that, because again, we've probably got listeners that don't know quite what that means.
These sites are designated for men and men only. They're like we've been telling you before. There is men's sites, women's sites.
Like Luna's even explained before, folks, how if she'll come up close to like a men's site, you can almost feel it. Do you know what I mean? And vice versa. So Donny, back to you, man.
So as we were going up in there, one of the archaeologists had found an old broken walking stick. And it was embedded in the top of the broken walking stick was these crystalline rocks. And as she tried to hand it to me, and I said, no, I can't touch it. Can't put it down. So we did. So we walked up to the top of this mountain. I'm not 100% for sure what you would call it over there, but it was a special area. It's called a napping area where they break the stone, make the tools. We had special areas where we used to do that type of things. and they used to tell their stories. That was where they used to sit and wait and get confirmation to go up into that area of the men's business area. Anyway, we got there, we started identifying artefacts and things like that. I was sitting down, my son went for a walk up to the top of the hill, and it was a flat rock area. And he came racing out, and he was basically nearly as wide as a goat and wide-eyed. And he said, Dad, come and have a look at this. Come and have a look at this. Come on, come have a look at this. So I got up, and we all went over there, and there was, just in one little small area, was a pile of women's shoes, all different types, work boots, high heels, sandals, you name it, every type of pair of shoes, but they weren't all the same. Like, you had small ones, large ones, mid-sized ones. And anyway, we looked around to see if we could find any bodies, because it was really unusual to find all these shoes piled up on this rock. We could not find anything, couldn't find any, what's the name there, or any tracks or anything like that. So we left it and we informed the police. I don't know if the police went out there to have a look at it or not. Well, the continuation of this story. As the archaeologists wanted us to go up into the men's side area. Actually, the first time I actually refused. I said, no, I'm not qualified to go up in that area. But eventually I had to go up there because they wanted to know what was going on up in there. As we walked up into there, about a K up into that area, we came across a dead pig. Now, to come across this animal, it also means it's a warning sign. This dead pig had been stabbed in the forehead with a cow horn, and it was stabbed in the heart with a goat horn. And when I went past it, I tripped and hurt my knee. And I said to the archaeologist bloke, I said, I'm not really want to go any further. Please let me go, turn around. But we had to keep going. When I came back out of there, my health started to go downhill. So I knew that I'd done the wrong thing, and I had to do a bit of a ceremony and apologise for going up in there. But that's the full strength of the story.
Wow. That is wild.
Where do you even start to pick that apart, brother? It's awesome. And Donnie, as somebody that does a podcast, I would pay good money to be able to tell a good story like you. The way you tell a story. I'm not saying that like to make fun or saying you're like making a story up, but the way you tell it, pretty powerful stuff, Scotty boy, eh?
Yeah, that's bizarre with the shoes. Like, what was going on with that?
I mean, women's shoes. They shouldn't even been there in the first place. What's going on there?
Yeah, shouldn't have been even in that area. And then the fact that they were like all mismatched in different sizes and just randomly, it makes no sense. And then Donnie coming across that pig, and it's one of those things. Donnie got the gut feeling. He knew he shouldn't have been up there. That probably was not, where he needed.
It's weird, Scott. I can't ever prove that it was like the root cause of it, but I can't get away from the fact that my health took a exponential dip in the months following my walking into ground that definitely isn't sacred around Alistair Crowley's gaff, So I can definitely relate to what Donnie's saying here about how something like this you can take away. There can be long-term effects,
I definitely
Would you like
believe.
a similar?
Yeah, go for it. Quick, I'll throw it in there, man.
Go for it.
Okay, so my Native American grandma was on her deathbed in the hospital, and I went there and did ritual and ceremony and tried to help with the ushering of her off. And after I did the ceremony, I come back home, and then I get a phone call that a couple hours later, my grandma lets go. And so we have her funeral. So one of the traditions we do as Anicinabe, when someone very close to us passes, we cut our braids. And so I cut like 2 feet of my braid off. And usually when we have the going home ceremonies, we have a fire, and we would throw our braids in the fire to burn. Well, I was really upset because they didn't have a fire for her. And when we went to the gravesite, I told my daughter to put the braid in the gravesite. They bury it up. Within 2-3 weeks, my health plummets to the point of where my brother came home from Germany because my family thought I was going to die. I had bed sores on my backside that were 1.5 inches deep. I had a huge spider bite, brown recluse, on my left calf. My mother came to visit me because of my health, and she saw my spider bite on the calf, the bed sores on my back, and she said, "Your grandma had sores like that before she died."
Wow.
And so then we contact elders, and we ask what we should do, and they give us some rituals and everything. And so we do rituals, nothing happens. And so another elder says we have to dig up the grave and get that braid because I offered myself to the dead. So I had to get 4 of my closest friends and my brothers together to go get the braid. And it seemed like the universe kept trying to stop it from occurring, to the point where it was a heavy fog. And this was in March, late February, early March that this happened. Heavy snow, heavy fog, just one after the other things. The backhoe that was supposed to go there, it pulled out of the shed and it died right then. They're all sitting around there. They called me up. They say, "We can't do this ceremony. The backhoe is done. And if you want, we'll use our picks and our shovels and everything." And I'm like, "Keep going. It'll work out." Lo and behold, a guy who was off work for vacation saw everybody standing around the backhoe, pulls up, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they're like, "The machine shot. This part died. Can't get it going." They found the part. They found the part. And here I am still today. And we found my braid.
That's what it's all about. And stay tuned for the Paranormal Portal. But it's Freaky Friday. We are out of here.
Miigwech.
There we go, folks. There we go. Well, listen, we're still on YouTube, and I want to thank everyone for hanging out on YouTube. The YouTube audience have been absolutely enthralled by this tonight. Absolutely gobsmacked. So they have. Scotty, everything I thought it would be, man. How about you?
Oh, definitely. And I just think, we're just scratching the surface. 3 hours is definitely like not long enough to go into.
Luna's thinking, "Oh, not another 3 hours to do. Oh yeah, we're gonna kidnap you again."
Actually, I'm thinking there is more. Because I've told you
there's always
what's happened
more
to me in the last few days, and about the lizards. I had dead lizards, and then I was given live lizards, and it was all coincided with this show. It was really freaky. I even had to ring Donnie and go, "I'm not sure what's going on here, but this is what's happened. What do you reckon?" And Donnie said to me, "It's going to happen tomorrow." And I forgot that he said it's going to happen tomorrow, and it went bang and hit me in the head. And I'm like, I should have listened. I forgot about that. But then after everything happened, all the good signs come in, and I got all these little baby blue tongues all around me all of a sudden.
See? Everything worked out in the end. I'm telling you, it always comes together. It's like the A-Team, remember? Oh, it's good when a plan comes together, Scotty, right?
I pity the fool.
Yeah, we just throw it together on the fly live. We do it live like the A-Team done in the barn all the time, Hey, there you go. So, folks, listen, I'm going to give Kevin, give your Facebook group a shout out, and I'll give Donnie a last word. But I'm going to let Luna take us out today. So over to you, Kev.
Well, forgive me and forgive my ego, but it is Nese, N-E-S-E, quote, the letter N, in quotes, TFR, or Truth Frequency Radio. So it's Naysay N Truth Frequency Radio.
So we're gonna post it in the chat room on YouTube for you as well, bro. So Donnie,
thank you, I appreciate that.
Donnie, I'll let you. In fact, Scott, I'll let you say goodbye to the audience before Donnie.
Yes, I would like to say something before I go.
Well, let Scott go first. I'm going to give it to you Australians to take us out today. Scott, on you go, man.
Hey, it was awesome. It was awesome talking to Luna. Awesome talking to Donnie. Getting their perspective on everything, and getting to kind of piece together some of these synchronicities and these parallels between the tribes of North America and the tribes of Australia. It's just really cool conversation, and I think it kind of solidifies the fact that there seems to be this common thread that runs between all of these cultures and civilizations, and it was just awesome. It was awesome having that conversation and digging into it. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it.
Very cool, bro. Very cool. I'm gonna say goodbye. I'll be back Sunday with Warrior Mode over on Bill Bean's channel. We have got the amazing Lon Strickler coming on. Oh, it's cryptids all the way. Mothman, flying humanoids, all of that stuff on Warrior Mode. Thank you for tuning in today. Remember to hit subscribe if you're new here. Hit like, hit dislike if you want. Just play with the algorithm. It'll please me a lot. So from me, thank you. And over to you, Donnie. And then after you, we'll get Luna to take us out of here. And then I'll scare everyone to death with that intro that I've got.
I just wanted to say, this was given to me by the elders. It's the elders' instructions of living on country. Do not steal, do not kill, do not tell lies, do not fight, care for Mother Earth, look after country, look after totems, and Mother Earth will look after you. Father God will care for you. That's living on country. That's the instructions. If you ever come on my country, that's the instructions I would like you to go by.
I think those instructions should hold true everywhere we go, eh?
Yeah, I would say that is a very solid blueprint that everybody should follow.
Well said, Scott. Well said, Donnie. So, with that, Luna, it's over to you, my good friend.
Okay, well, I want to say thank you, Kev. Thank you, Naysay. Nice to meet you, Scotty, and I'm glad that we finally got to meet. Thank you, Brother Donnie. And on the way out, I suppose, respect each other, be mindful of the mother. Love to you on this day.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yellow.
Is it still going?
Yeah, we're still on for a minute yet, Don. We're still on for a minute.
Freaky Friday with the Woo Crew.
Oh, the Roo crew, mate.